Blog Talk Radio.
Correctly with the correct amount.
And now for our feature presentation.
Oh me, oh my, it is Thursday night, everybody. It's time for the Untitled movie show here on blogtalkradio.com. And that's my phone going off in the background. Yeah, professional. Like I said, guys, it's Thursday night. It's the Untitled movie show. I'm Miguel Leon. That was Michael Burhan in the background. Burhan, say hi.
Hi.
And we've got a packed house tonight, everybody. Returning to the show after a long hiatus and a bit of a hospital visit, Mr. Clint Davis.
Hey, yo.
And returning from last week's show to talk about our topic, it's Mr. Rudy Ferretti. What's up, Rudy?
Hello, everybody. Hello.
And before we get into the topic at hand, which tonight is going to be movie remakes, let's throw out the call numbers right now. Folks, if you're listening in on Blog Talk Radio and the Retro Unlim Network and you want to call in, the call-in number is 718-664-9265. Make sure to call in. We're going to be talking about remakes today, but before we get into that, let's talk about some movie news getting out there. Let's just get into all things. And the first big news I think we all really need to talk about, unfortunately, is the unfortunate passing of actor Philip Seymour Hoffman.
That sucks.
I don't think this was so unfortunate.
I'm going to get into that as well. I kind of agree. Philip Seymour Hoffman, of course, was a pretty big actor. I mean, he didn't do many big-time roles, but he did a lot of Oscar-nominated roles.
Are you sure about that? Because in Along Came Polly, he didn't seem to be too well known. If you recall, he was trying to get his movie career announced.
Well, yeah, those late '90s, early 2000 movies weren't necessarily the most big-time. I mean, one of the first big hits was Twister.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but Twister, that was terrible. His acting in that movie was terrible.
Everybody's acting was terrible in that one. That was just a bad movie.
All right, brother.
I see what you're saying, though. He was obviously a drug addict, and he was an unhappy person. But at the same time, I mean, it sucks for anybody to die. You know.
Well, why are you so unhappy? I mean, your name is well known. You're out there. You're making movies. You got all kinds of things going for you. Your kids love you. You got all kinds of girlfriends and stuff. I mean, yeah, he was an ugly dude, but he's got more money than Davy Crockett, and he went for look at you.
Did he have women, though? He had real women, like real true women, or he was...
No, he had a conversation with his ex-girlfriend the night before, and he was going to go with his current girlfriend that morning and go pick up his kids. That's really where I've got a problem, is this dude shooting up right before he goes to get his kids. That's what I've got a problem with. Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you, really quick, I know we got to stay on topic, but in reference to Philip Seymour, there's been times where things have been going really well for me, and I've been really happy, and I was fucking, a lot of different girls, but I was still, depressed. So I guess it just depends on the person, but I never did drugs, so I don't know what happened.
What I'm going to say is I'm going to get Rudy Ferretti to come out with me when I need women in the States, because apparently if he's banging loads of girls, I need a piece of that action.
I'm kind of done with that, dude. After hitting number 70, I think it's time for me to slow down. 35 years old. I don't want to be catching something. I'm lucky that I never did.
Hey, I'm 32 years old, and I need to be catching something. Come on, man.
Yeah, I'm 32 as well, and I haven't caught anything yet.
Yeah, sometimes we're
the same age.
Yeah, that's right.
High five.
High five. Air five.
Air five.
I would like to get an Asian woman, though. If somebody can find me an Asian woman that likes white boys.
Do you want me so horny Asian, or do you want Asian as in, I'm Asian, so it's kind of Asian thing. Do you want an Ashwarya Rai, or do you want a sort of a Gail Kim?
So Philip Seymour's gone. You guys, some of you don't think it's that bad, but some do.
Well, here's the crux of the whole situation. The man, he died at age 46, and from what people are saying, it may have been due to an overdose of heroin, which...
Maybe. The guy had, tons of it in his apartment.
He had a needle sticking out of his arm. I mean,
unless there was a ninja that came in and destroyed him and basically left all those flicking heroin thing and everything scattered around. I'm sorry, there's a you walk into someone's apartment, the dude's lying dead with a needle sticking out of him, and there's heroin everywhere.
Okay, let's not...
Maybe this is drugs.
Yeah, let's not be coy about it. Yes, it more than likely was due to heroin overdose. And, I'm sorry, but if the guy was suffering from issues with depression and stuff, more power to him. I mean, God, we just lost somebody in the gaming community due to depression. Burhan, I know you know who I'm talking about, Burhan. But I just, to go out like that, man, especially such a well-respected actor. I mean, I'm looking at his filmography. I mean, he did a lot of substantial movies. He was in The Master, which is being nominated for several big hits. His most recent big hit was as Truman Capote in the Capote adaptation. He's been in movies like Magnolia and Boogie Nights. He's done some high-end movies, and he's been having a really substantial career in theater right now. I mean, to blow that all away, it's just, I don't know. It doesn't ring hard. It doesn't ring loud in terms of tragedy.
Yeah, I can't believe he would throw a theater career away because, I mean, we're all over that shit.
Yeah. No, I agree.
We don't know, though, what was going on in his head. We really don't.
No, he was clean for 20 years. I mean, how do you go clean for 20 years? And it kind of looks to me like they're saying he was clean for 20 years, but he went to rehab last year. Why would you go to rehab last year if you were clean for 19 years at the time, and then all of a sudden a year later you're killing yourself? I mean, there's a missing piece to the puzzle here.
We don't know what happened. I mean, my thing is, how do we know, somebody wasn't behind this? You know what I mean? There's a lot of things, as you know, in the media, politics, government that goes unreported. We don't really know what happened to him. We only know what we've been told. I'm just saying, there's always that chance. We
need a Capote commission. That's what we need. We need somebody to go in depth, and we need to find out what really happened that night. We need some good conspiracy theories, and we need to write a book about it and make billions off of this.
Well, they're investigating it right now. I think they've at least had 4 people under investigation that were either involved or had sold him the heroin. Like, they're definitely going into this, figuring out what happened to this guy. But, in terms of losing a dedicated actor like that, it is unfortunate. He recently was directing a film. I can't find the title for it, unfortunately. I've been looking all over the place. Let me see. I'm looking all over the place. I can't really seem to actually find the actual title for it, but he was in the middle of directing a movie himself, and he was actually just finishing up his performance in the final Hunger Games movie. In fact, that's what we're going into with our next story. A lot of people are wondering how this will affect the second Mockingjay movie in the Hunger Games series, Mockingjay Part 2. Which, by the way, let me just say it right now, I don't understand why they're splitting up the final movie. That's something that all these book-related movies are starting to do is,
You know why. They're doing it.
I'm not a fan of the Hunger Games at all.
Never seen any of them.
Why did they split up Harry Potter? Why did they split up Twilight? They did it because they wanted more money.
True. I mean, I'm not the biggest fan of the Hunger Games. To me, it comes off as like a teeny bop version of The Running Man. I mean, I'll stick with The Running Man.
I think it's like a teeny bop version of Battle Royale High School.
Oh yeah, that too, most definitely.
Basically, if you take a Battle Royale High School and make it pissy, that's what you get when you see the Hunger Games. I don't mind it. The story was passable. Woody Harrelson's in it, so I love Woody Harrelson. But the rest of the characters seem really superficial. It doesn't make sense. I think the plot between her having to have a boyfriend to make her look strong is ridiculous. I think people need to really, look at the book and look at it for face value. It's not that great. But, more power to Jennifer Lawrence. She's become a household name because of it. She's an amazing actress. She's got a nice ass. And also the fact, and I would bang, but also the fact that the movie franchise itself is doing really well for her. So I'm happy. But in terms of it being an amazing story, it's not. And that's what happens.
Who wants to start though with a movie that should not be remade or a movie that should be remade? Who wants to start off with that?
The Fly.
Well, hold on. Before we get into that, let's introduce one of the members of the I Got Gaming podcast who is joining us, Mr. Zach Latour. Zach?
Did you just say I Got Gaming?
I got gameplay. Sorry.
There you go. You've been on it for how many episodes, Miguel?
I'm sorry. I'm kind of floating around trying to figure out why things aren't. Why I was trying to invite Zach to the call, and then I realized he's already invited to it. So, yeah, Zach, are you there, man? Zach, you're live, buddy.
Zach?
All right, he's attached to the chat to the call. So if he wants to be a part of it, he can get in on this. But folks, if you want to get in on this chat, 718-664-9265. Speaking of chat, let me actually load that up. I completely forgot about that. I'm still getting the hang of this whole thing, folks. It's 5 episodes in, and I'm just starting to, not have to be led by the hand. So
yeah, because I lead him with my hand by his penis.
Giggity. All right. So yeah, we just loaded up the chat. So if you're logging into the Blog Talk Radio page, you can join us in on the chat there. Like I said, 718-664-9265. The Untitled Movie Show, Episode 5, Movie Remakes. And going back to the conversation, it seems as though his Philip Seymour Hoffman's death won't affect the movie too much, but there are key scenes that he was supposed to be a part of that tie into the ending. They were filming the end parts to it, so it sounds like they might have to rewrite the ending or refilm it in a way that they can still keep his character in continuity, but obviously not having his character alive. That'll make it difficult.
Like Paul Walker.
Yeah, like Paul Walker, although not to the extent, because in the case of Paul Walker, a lot of his key scenes were not filmed. In the case of Hoffman, he filmed a substantial amount. I mean, it's only here and there that they have to do some clever editing and clever rewriting to get it going. But I wonder if this is going to be a situation like that, where these next few Hunger Games movies, specifically the 2 Mockingjay movies, if those are going to get a boost from this death, or if Philip Seymour Hoffman's death, given the circumstances behind it, are actually going to affect the box office.
I think it'll hurt it.
You think it'll hurt it?
I think it will, honestly.
Burhan, what do you think?
I don't think it will hurt it. They don't really want to see his character. They want to see Jennifer Lawrence's. No offense, he's a great actor. He's an amazing actor, but he excels in independent movies, stuff where he can actually show his acting chops. When he does big budget, he only usually does it to finance independent stuff. And you can tell, because the big budget stuff that he's always done has been shit.
Rudy, you got any opinion on this?
Not that particular one, no. I mean, I'm not gonna lie, I wasn't a big fan of him. So.
Well, saying that though, Mission Impossible 3, he was amazing in that.
Yeah, I haven't. I actually got to watch some of the Mission Impossible movies. I've seen 4. 4 I really loved. Ghost Protocol was a lot of fun. 2 I've heard is a mess, but I would have to see it myself.
Did you hear that he's getting sued for Ghost Protocol because apparently that wasn't an original script?
Thank you, Burhan. You actually helped me out, because that was actually the next big topic we were going to talk about. See how things work out like that, folks?
And I will say this: rest in peace, Philip Seymour Hoffman. You're a great man, a great actor, and I loved you dearly. The way that you couldn't battle your demons, I'm unhappy about it, but in the end, we're our own misers. If I basically died in the same way, I would expect people to sit there and ridicule me. No offense, because it's my own fault. You do things to yourself. It's not like anybody else did it. It's not that he was going through depression to the point where he wanted to kill himself. He was binging on something where he knew if he took an excess, he would have passed. And that's what happened. But rest in peace. Remember him for all the good that he did, guys. Not shitty films like Twister.
Yeah. Let's keep in mind movies like Magnolia and Boogie Nights. Which
agree.
Yeah. Zach, are you here? I think I heard some noise on your end.
Yeah. What's up? Can you guys hear me?
Hey.
Zach Latour, ladies and gentlemen,
What's up, Hardy?
What up, Blaze?
What up, guys? Zach Latour from the I Got Gaming podcast.
Gameplay.
Gameplay.
You know what? I'm done.
That's 3 strikes.
I got gameplay. I apologize, man. I'm sorry. I apologize.
No. Maybe cry, Miguel. It's only got gameplay.
I got gameplay. I'll write that down.
Saturday.
Yeah, it's this Saturday, 8 o'clock. I don't know what the topic is, but I'll definitely plug it when we get to the end of the show.
Barry, dude. We've got Al Low, so it's Leisure Suit. You're fired, Miguel.
I have never worked in a situation in conditions this bad. I will be going back to my trailer. But yeah, Zach, we're just getting off of the news of Philip Seymour Hoffman's passing. Before we get on to our other news, do you want to say anything about that?
Yeah, I mean, he is a good actor, but I don't know. I mean, you play with fire, you get burned. You know, that's really just how it is.
Boom.
Agreed. You know what? So aptly put, that's true. You're going to do drugs. That's the life you're going to lead.
Yeah.
Well, let's segue into our next big topic, and that is, as Burhan alluded to, a bit of a lawsuit brewing up between Tom Cruise and a writer by the name of Timothy McLanahan. McLanahan.
Oh, I'll say McLovin.
I was just thinking McLovin.
Yeah, Timothy McLanahan.
No, his name's McLovin from now on.
Yes, we should.
We got to keep it professional. Apparently, the story goes is that Mr. McLanahan wrote a screenplay titled Head On back in 1998, which didn't get picked up by anybody, but had made its way into the hands of creative artist agency head Rick Nishida, who is Tom Cruise's agent, and he's claiming that somehow that script got into Tom Cruise's hands and was used as the basis for the fourth Mission Impossible movie, Ghost Protocol.
No offense, that script is copyrighted. It's registered to the Actors Guild of America as well, just how the Distill for Hire scripts are, Jericho. And the fact is, when you're doing something like that and you've got it registered, you've got copyright in your hand, the law's on his side. And as far as I'm concerned with Cruise, I wouldn't put it past him.
Now, to be fair though, let's look at a lot of the situation behind it, because there is a little bit of a fishy nature to this. First off, he waited 2 years after the release of the movie to file this lawsuit.
Agreed.
Secondly, he hasn't released any information on what the script was about. All he's claiming is that they ripped him off. He hasn't released any sort of specific details behind what exactly was being ripped off. And thirdly, he's suing Tom Cruise for $1 billion.
Excuse me, I need to do this. $1 billion.
I mean, look, I'm all up for giving credit where credit's due. I mean, we talked about this back in our first episode when we talked about the Old Boy situation and the way Spike Lee was screwing over that one concept artist. But you do kind of gotta gotta see a ruse for a ruse. And I don't know, maybe this guy's script was kind of similar to Mission Impossible Ghost Protocol.
But what justifies a whopping $1 billion lawsuit?
Exactly. And like I said, the fact that he waited 2 years to break this out, you know, right when Tom Cruise is about to release his upcoming film, Edge of Tomorrow. I mean, that movie's got about a few months till release.
Yeah.
I think this guy's just drumming up controversy. Unless I see more information on this copyright issue, I kind of get a feeling he's just being hosed. I mean, the same thing kind of happened to James Cameron, as stated in the article I'm reading off of Cinema Blend. When Avatar came out, he got sued by 4 or 5 different writers.
But it's $1 billion. That could, wipe out his fucking bank account. Seriously, it could.
It would pretty much be the entire gross of the film, even counting DVD sales. I mean,
yeah, he would be in the negatives, for the first time since he was living off hot dogs and rice.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, this happens a lot more in Hollywood than you think. I'm not saying it's legitimate because, as we've stated before, there's a lot of cases of people being ripped off. But to me, this just seems too fishy. And
$1 billion.
Yeah. Burhan, you got anything you want to say about this?
All I'm saying is, in regards to the situation, it's actually quite kind of funny that Tom Cruise is on the other side of being sued by someone else instead of suing people for saying that he doesn't love his daughter. So as far as I'm concerned, the shoe's on the other foot now. If he can dispute it, then dispute it. Cruise Wagner Productions, dispute it. In terms of Tom Cruise and his body of work, I think he needs a break. I really believe he needs to take time away from acting, spend some time with his child, and possibly fight this lawsuit. If this guy cleans him out, I think he'll get awarded something. I don't think he's going to get $1 billion. Just on the fact that it's just fucking greedy.
Right, he might be suing for $1 billion, but there's no way a judge is going to allow that. Nothing's worth $1 billion lawsuit. Nothing. I don't care what it is. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think but yeah, it's true. I don't understand why more of these actors and actresses don't take more fucking breaks. It makes no sense to me. But I will tell you this. if I ever make it in Hollywood, I want to be like a B or C actor. I don't want to be known. I just want to make a lot of money, enjoy what I do, be happy, and just be like under the radar, so I'm not bothered. You know?
You want to be like Eric Roberts, basically, who's
like a Terry O'Quinn or something like that. You know, somebody who does like 1,000 movies, and has a lot of money, but you don't hear about them much.
Like a Judd Nelson.
Yeah,
I don't know about Judd
Nelson. Judd Nelson is a very good actor.
But has he done a lot of stuff?
No.
Okay, I'm talking about somebody that does a lot of things where they make a huge living off of what they do.
Well, he's done a lot of crap that nobody watches, but he hadn't done a whole lot of big stuff.
Right. Well, that's all that matters. You know, I look at it this way. If you're happy doing what you do, I used to care about being really big and famous, and if it happens, great. But what's more important, I think, you got to enjoy what you do and be happy. If you notice, all these B and C actors, they never die from over fucking doses and shit. They just go away. But they never die. You know, I'm not saying it doesn't happen, but it's so rare. Usually the ones that are dying and overdosing and unhappy are the ones that are rich and fucking famous. And there's no denying that.
I agree with that.
Zach, do you want to add anything to this conversation?
Yeah, well, you know, I never understand why people, steal stuff and take stuff that's not theirs, especially in this day and age. I mean, you know, like technology and everything, it's so easy once the word gets out, it's just so easy to spread it to everybody.
Right.
And, like you look when Shia LaBeouf or whatever the hell his name is, how he was like, taking people's stuff and then someone calls him out on it. Like, obviously people are going to figure it out. They're not dumb, So I don't know why people do it. Whoever said something about the $1 billion lawsuit is ridiculous. I agree. But, yeah, I don't know. It makes no sense to me why anybody just steals people's stuff straight up. I don't know why. Because it's like, if you think about it, like, if you like something that somebody did, why wouldn't you try to almost, like, have, like, a partnership with them where, like, you could continue doing things together if you liked something that they had already done before?
Because people are selfish and horrible and evil and cruel. It happens in the gaming world every day, so,
Yeah. The thing that bugs me, anyway, is the fact that in terms of the way that Hollywood's actually doing business at the moment, no wonder the business model is going to fucking shit. They're either working with franchises to try and make as many movies as they can out of one film and milking it and elongating the story to the point where it just becomes unbearable, including CG babies and stuff, or people are stealing other people's ideas. If he writ your fucking film, give him credit. If he basically wrote a script for a film that's grossed some money, give this writer his money. Don't fuck him around. If the guy's a hack, then he's a hack.
Yeah, well, you got a lot of those. You know about what happened with me with NES Club, Michael. So
yeah, I know exactly. But in a sense,
bullshit.
When it comes down to it, we all make our own way in terms of things. I don't like talking about myself, even though I have been doing it in the third person lately. My company in general, Enigma Entertainment, I put it together myself. I'm not relying on any studios. I'm doing things my own way. And if people want to get themselves out there in the movie business, suing people in Hollywood is probably not going to get you where you need to be.
Yeah.
So, once if he does get any money from this, even if he gets awarded it, he'll never work again.
Right, exactly. It's gonna blackball him for the rest of his life. It's sad but true. I think that's like that with any business. But yeah, well, that's the thing though. There's no originality. All these fucking remakes. There's so much no originality anymore. I mean, once in a while it's okay to do a remake, but some of them are just fucking horrible.
It's the Michael Bay business model, isn't it? Everyone wants to do like a film where explosions are happening or someone gets killed, or they want to do something that makes it look different in comparison to the original. What made Total Recall work was Arnold Schwarzenegger. What makes films like, for instance, I'm putting like on my head, Back to the Future work, was because Back to the Future told a story. It was fun. It was fantastic. It was fiction. But everybody who played their role in it, played it well.
Right. They could redo it, but it's going to be stupid because all it's going to be is special effects and modern technology. It's not going to be a good movie.
I agree.
Yeah. And that's the thing.
Well, we'll get into all that when we get into our main topic, but we've still got a bit of news to talk about before we go into our second half. Let's see, what's the next big topic that I want to get into? The other big bit of news that came out is casting for Batman versus Superman. I know we tend to have a bit of Batman Superman news on every show we've had so far, so I figured why not keep the streak going.
Is this the other person who talks in the third person?
I don't know if this is the other person that talks in the third person, but we have news on casting of Lex Luthor for the upcoming Batman versus Superman movie. And unfortunately, it is not fan favorite Bryan Cranston that everybody was hoping for.
They dropped the boat on that one. The guy is like a hot property in Hollywood. And
I would have loved to have seen Bryan Cranston in as the role, but apparently the studios didn't even reach out to Cranston. Which
because they wanted him the same age. Apparently, they wanted Batman and Superman and Lex to be the same age, which I think is something they missed the boat on.
Well, I don't know about the same age because I don't know if I could see this guy as anything more than just a teenager. And that's Jesse Eisenberg, star of The Social Network. He played Mark Zuckerberg, I believe, in The Social Network.
I loved him in that.
He will be playing Lex Luthor in the Batman vs. Superman movies. And it looks like they're also going to be tweaking Luthor's origin story. In this upcoming version, they're going to be making him a former street punk who, at the age of, I believe, 14 or 15, took over a major gang in Metropolis and basically was a self-made millionaire. Became got his funds together, and he's going to have.
They've merged him with
Kingpin.
They've merged him with what's it called? It was in Lois and Clark, Mega Gang, I think they were called, or something like that.
I believe so, but they're making him a rags to riches character who basically I don't know what to say about this. Let me just start off by saying I don't think Jesse Eisenberg's a bad actor. I've heard he did really good in The Social Network. I haven't seen it. But when I think of Lex Luthor, I think of a very imposing figure. He is an alpha male business type character. He's intimidating. He is that big, intimidating force against Superman. I don't get that from Eisenberg. I mean, I know I shouldn't be saying that considering we've been in the situation before with guys like Heath Ledger and the Joker, with Affleck and Batman, although we don't know how that's going to turn out. But when you consider the original choice, I mean, Cranston just has that look to him. I mean, when he scowls, if you see pictures of him where he's just looking just intense, it's intense. He could stare a hole through you. And I think that would have been perfect.
Though, before he was Walter White, people thought he wasn't going to be a proper Walter White. People thought, oh, look, it's that stupid dad and Malcolm in the Middle. And he proved everyone wrong.
That is a good point, Burhan. I actually didn't think of that. Yeah. But you guys' thoughts. Clint, we'll start with you. What do you think of Jesse Eisenberg being cast as Lex Luthor?
I don't see it happening. I think there's been way too many recasts for that part, and I think it just hasn't been the same, obviously, since the original Superman, but obviously we can't get Marlon Brando back. But I don't know. I don't see I think the guy from what was that movie with the three dudes where they dressed up like chicks, the Sorority Girls. I think that guy just kind of killed the role. I don't think it'll ever be the same after him.
Yeah, as far as I'm concerned, I think even if they wanted a younger Luthor, they could have used the Lex from the TV show.
Oh, yeah, what's his name? I know exactly who you're talking about. Yeah, he was pretty good.
He was awesome, and the fact that he just became psychotic over time really helped his character. And I think, in general, they could have done that way. They could have gone with that character. Now, I have no issue with Jesse Eisenberg. I have no issue whatsoever. I really hate when they tweak someone's bloody story. It's like Lex was a silver spoon type of guy. He was a guy who was intelligent because his daddy paid him to be intelligent. Do you know what I mean?
Well, apparently from what I'm reading, they want to change his character to a rags to riches character because they want to create a feud between him and Batman as well, where he does not respect Batman, the fact that Batman got his riches handed to him as a kid due to his parents passing and whatnot, and he has a resentment towards Batman that they want to build up.
That's stupid.
Yeah. Especially when you consider that the original Luthor was in the same spot as Batman. He was kind of like almost the anti-Batman in that regard, where he was a billionaire who didn't want to do good. He was selfish.
Any comic book lovers out there, read a comic book called Forever Evil, okay? Luthor and Batman have to work together at the moment. Batman he's got his all the tries to lay all the cards on the table and say, I'm leading this Injustice League, and Lex just looked at him and was like, no, you're not. Catwoman looked at him and was like, I think you're outnumbered here, because Lex had all these other villains behind him. And apparently Lex may be the leader of the Justice League after Forever Evil. Think about that.
That sucks.
Yeah. Well, it could, for me at the moment, it's really intriguing reading all of this. So check that out. Check it out exactly why he's the anti-Batman. Because is that sort of so intelligent. The thing that made him so obsessed with Superman, because he didn't understand why Superman was helping people. He kind of became an obsession for Lex.
Yeah, it seems like they're putting that more on the heels of Batman than it is on Superman. Apparently the only connection in that they're going to have between Batman and Superman and Lex is that Lex doesn't like that he's an alien invader who, in his opinion, shouldn't be here. And one of the big cruxes of the movie is going to be that the reason that Batman is brought into the picture is because Wayne Enterprises is going to be teaming up with the Lex Corp to rebuild Metropolis after the events of Man of Steel, which is unique, but the more and more I read this, the more and more it seems like they're just setting up Luthor to be Batman's villain. Like, hey, we can't get the Joker because, Heath Ledger died, and, we can't do Bane because we killed him, so let's bring Lex Luthor into here and have him do that.
This is a whole new world. Don't you dare close your eyes. It's literally a whole new world here. It's nothing to do with the Nolan films. The Nolan verse doesn't exist anymore. And the fact that Nolan is even taking his name and his company's name away from this movie.
Yeah, we've been talking about this nonstop, and the more and more we read this, the more and more this just sounds like a big Hollywood disaster. Unfortunately, as I've stated before, this movie, whether good or bad, it's going to make more money than anything else. This movie is going to ride solely on the name Batman versus Superman.
Yeah, and the problem is they're getting everything wrong. I don't want Wonder Woman in this movie. Apparently, they're even thinking about casting Dwayne Johnson as the Green Lantern for this movie.
Well, they haven't officially said that, but Dwayne hasn't really shied away from it. He's put out several tweets recently.
Yeah, I just don't think... Look, Dwayne, I'm going to be level with you here, Mr. Rock person. You're not a character actor. You will never be a character actor. You're an action star, right? I'm fine with that role, and I'm fine with you smiling and pretending that you know how to act. But you don't. Right? The fact is, you could probably be a great actor if you actually took some acting lessons, but you're so high on yourself at the moment, you would never actually get an actor who's probably going to be on a lower pay scale than you to teach you.
Yeah, to me, in terms of action stars that are good actors, I'd put Jason Statham above Dwayne Johnson.
Yeah, and Jason Statham's shitty. His accent's like he tries to put on an American accent. It's terrible. But
that Southern accent he put on in Parker.
Yeah, the fact that Statham himself actually can emote better than Dwayne shows you that. Oh, you know what? If anyone you want to bring back Hal Jordan. Bring back Ryan Reynolds. At the end of the day, give the Lantern more of a story. Make the Lantern the story-driven character, because in the end, the fuck-up that you guys did in terms of that movie was the screenplay and the direction. It wasn't the character.
That was all studio interference. I mean, Martin Campbell basically came out and said that the Warner Brothers basically took that movie from him. He had filmed a whole...
Terrible.
Because there are even eyewitness reports saying that he filmed a lot more scenes for that movie. I think the movie probably would have been 2.5 hours, which I think would have been a benefit to it, because to me that movie just felt way too rushed. And I think that Martin Campbell's a great director. He directed GoldenEye. He directed Casino Royale. The man knows how to direct a really good action movie. This was just, like I said, it goes back to studio interference. Warner Brothers basically couldn't trust anybody else with that property, so they meddled in it. And we've seen in the past what happens when Warner Brothers meddles in movies.
But the thing is, you got it wrong. It's not even based on your own damn character. The Parallax. What the fuck?
Yeah, the only good thing about that was he was voiced by Clancy Brown, and I love Clancy Brown.
Gotta love a little Clancy.
The fact is, the story was wrong, the direction was wrong. Hell, Warner, I offered to take the character off your hands and build you a better story. I wasn't even going to direct it. I was just going to write the screenplay. it would have worked. You destroyed the character, and now you're trying to cast somebody else to be another shitty Lantern. The reason why Jon Stewart wouldn't work isn't because of the fact that Jon Stewart sucks, because he doesn't. Where he's a very emotive character. He's got a very good background. He was an army soldier. He was somebody basically who suffered a lot of loss in his life. It would be a great Lantern to have. But the problem is, instead of focusing on story and character, you're trying to overload this movie with all these characters, and you're going to end up destroying Superman before it hits the third movie.
By the way, just to kind of take us back into the main topic, do you know who the studio originally wanted to play Lex Luthor before they settled on Jesse Eisenberg?
There's a rumor behind that. They said it was Tom Hanks, but that wasn't true.
Superman died when Christopher Reeve died. I'm sorry.
Joaquin Phoenix apparently was approached about it, but he didn't want anything to do with it.
I'm kind of glad. I mean, I don't mind Joaquin Phoenix in some movies, but I don't think I could ever see him as Lex Luthor.
I don't think I could see him in another movie, period. I just don't think he's that good of an actor. I think he's got the name. He's got a famous brother, famous death, another one that we're talking about kind of here. But I just don't see him as a good actor. I don't even think he was good as Johnny Cash. I mean, yeah, he looked a little bit like him, but seriously, come on. The guy, he's a whack job.
Yeah, what do you think about the whole casting of Lex Luthor? What do you think about that, Clint?
You know, like I was saying, I just don't think that there's a good. I think they need to leave him out for a change. I mean, you know, we need to. I mean, I get the last movie, the whole where we all found out that Superman was actually not Superman; he was super alien. You know, obviously there wasn't a whole lot of talk about him there. There wasn't a big deal about it, but I just don't see anybody getting cast into that role, honestly. I mean, I definitely don't see Jesse Eisenberg. That's the main thing here. He's just one of those guys that you would picture him in a movie with Jonah Hill doing something stupid or playing a guitar somewhere or, you know, whatever. But you just can't see him as I can't see him as Lex Luthor. I just don't think this is going to be good.
I'd sooner see him as Jimmy Olsen, to be quite honest with you. If you'd have told me that.
That's a role he would fit into, right? That's kind of what I was going for, that nerdy, you know, this would be like, you know how, what's his name from that 70s show? The guy, Topher Grace. He showed up in that Spider-Man movie with the camera and all that stuff. That's like saying Topher Grace would be a good Lex Luthor, you know? He's got that
Venom.
He's got that dorky role, that nerdy role with a camera in his hand, and I think that's the only place he fits in here. I just don't think Eisenberg he's a Topher Grace kind of guy. He's not a Lex Luthor kind of guy.
Yeah, and to be honest, if they hadn't cast him already in Superman Returns, I think Kevin Spacey would have been great. I thought he played a pretty solid Lex Luthor.
Yeah, Kevin Spacey was good. Kevin Spacey can do a lot of things, and especially impressions, which you guys know that's right up my alley. But Kevin Spacey, I think, probably would have been the best for it. You got to have an older Lex Luthor. You can't make all these guys the same. This is not the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles where we all, you know, jumped in the ooze and then we're all the same age and all this other kind of stuff. We're not growing up together. It's you know, things have happened throughout the history of the Earth, and now there's Superman's involved, and now you've got Batman involved, and now these guys, like I said, they didn't grow up together. It's not the same. They didn't go to the same junior high together. They didn't graduate from high school together. They didn't all decide that, hey, once we graduate college, let's all go be villains and heroes. You know, it's not like that. That's a horrible storyline.
Why did they wait, over 20 years, almost 20 years to redo Dumb and Dumber, to do the part? I know it's part 2, but, don't you think it's a little bit late?
To be fair, though, they've been trying to get Dumb and Dumber off the ground since the mid-'90s, but it's
the second one?
Yeah, the reason it's been on and off is because sometimes Jim Carrey is willing to do it, sometimes he isn't. They've been trying to do this thing since like I said, since the mid-'90s, but
basically Jim Carrey is desperate
20 years old, 20 years ago. I just can't see it being what it was 20 years ago. He's
desperate enough to do a Dumb and Dumber sequel. That's
he wanted to, as the way he put it, he wanted to diversify his portfolio, and he wanted to go and do different things and play different roles, and
It's
you know,
true.
established himself as a different type of character. He didn't want to be the goofy guy slapping people in the ass with a cane.
He
and
tried to play serious.
But he needs to be that guy, really. He can't be anybody else, in my opinion. In my opinion, he doesn't do anything else well. But that's
He can do serious. He can do serious.
Yeah, I defend his performance in Man on the Moon, and
I don't. I think that was the worst one he did. I was fixing to say that. Man on the Moon, I think, was the absolute worst casting they could have possibly done, putting Jim Carrey in that role. Because first of all, nobody cares about Andy Kaufman, first of all. Second of all, why give Jim Carrey something like that? Jim Carrey's not that kind of guy. You know, Andy Kaufman wasn't even funny.
Right.
The only funny thing about Andy Kaufman was when he got slapped down by Jerry the King Lawler. That was the only thing funny about that guy.
He's funny. You know, Jim Carrey's funnier than Adam Sandler, but I think Adam Sandler collectively has more overall acting
Adam
talent.
Sandler, yeah, he's a far better actor than Carrey.
He is not. He's not better as far as comedy goes. Jim Carrey ruins him, but
yeah, no, he's a far better actor though.
Yes, overall as an actor, he can do any role. Yeah, Adam Sandler can be serious. He can be funny, but when he's funny, he's not funny because it's always it's always the same fucking thing.
I'm angry. Ah.
Yeah, that's one of the things that annoys me about him. Zach, you wanna add anything to the conversation? We're talking about Jesse Eisenberg as Lex Luthor.
Yeah, I just wanted to say I think Jesse Eisenberg. We talked about how Philip Seymour Hoffman. You guys were saying that you liked him more in like an indie type setting, and I think I liked Jesse Eisenberg in that type of setting. He was in this movie that I saw called The Squid and the Whale, and I thought he was really good in that. That's an older movie, and also I liked him in Adventureland. He kind of plays like these quirky, people who really, I guess, aren't too sure of themselves. And I think he plays that really well. And I saw a movie that he did recently called Now You See Me, and that movie was fucking atrocious. I hated that movie. I thought it was horrible. I thought the acting was shit. The twist at the end, I was like, this is the twist. It's stupid. This whole movie sucks. Like, I wasted time watching this movie. And he didn't impress me at all in that movie. He was okay. Like, I saw the Social Network. I didn't, even when he was kind of being, air quotes, the badass of the movie, I never really even got that feeling that he was being a badass in that movie. I think that might have lent it to he was still doing a nerdier thing, like working with, programming and that kind of stuff, and that may be why it kind of suited him. Like, I wouldn't want to see, what's up?
It was kind of the model that Ashton Kutcher used for Steve Jobs. Do you notice he was like, I'm nerdy, but I'm a cunt.
Yeah. Right.
That's what it was. It was sort of like the angry type of nerd thing. Yeah, it was kind of the James Rolfe angry video game nerd kind of thing. It was like, if no one believes in me, then fuck you.
I wonder if that's what they're going for. Is they're going for more of a modern day CEO kind of thing, more of a hipster CEO thing for Lex Luthor. Which, if that's going to be the case, that's a terrible idea. I mean.
Yeah, very terrible.
Yeah, Lex Luthor his whole crux is he is an old school 80s era businessman. He is basically the Gordon Gekko of the comic book industry. I mean, you can kind of modern him up, but you still got to keep that core of a big intimidating character.
But you know what they could have done? They could have just made them friends. Do you know what I mean? They could have just made the two guys friends. He becomes friends with Superman, sort of thing.
Because isn't that what they did for Smallville, where they tied their histories?
And what they could have done is just have, say, like he introduced himself to Superman, he acts like he's a good guy, and Superman starts defending him, and Batman knows who Lex is, because Batman's smart and everything, so Batman's checked up on the guy, he knows that this guy is a well-renowned criminal, then we can have a way, like a door sort of open between Superman and Batman fighting, because Batman's trying to stop Lex, and Superman thinks, why are you trying to stop this amazing person? Do you know what I mean? It works. But in a sense, going this route is kind of making him the angry little kid. Oh, look, I'm a street thug. Jesse Eisenberg is not a street fucking thug. He's a nerd. You can tell he looks like a fucking nerd.
He's a Disney boy.
Yeah, and in the end, it's not a bad thing, but he's no Lex Luthor.
Well, folks,
and I may eat my words later, guys, so I will say this. Anybody out there who wants to prove me wrong, do so. I'll be happy to eat crow.
Oh, yeah. I don't want this movie to be bad. I want this to succeed, so I want the best out of Jesse Eisenberg. So, by all means, prove us wrong. Same thing with you, Affleck. Prove us wrong. Prove us
I've been a number one sort of Affleck supporter.
Not really a big Affleck fan either. I don't think he's all that great.
I have actually supported him since, people were going apeshit over there. I actually put in some good points. If anyone's actually seen my review that I did with my brother Jonah about the whole Batman thing and how people didn't believe in Michael Keaton and they didn't believe in base Christian Bale, they didn't believe in the Joker, they didn't believe in anything.
Yeah.
So there is potential here for him to shine.
If you would have told me years ago that Michael Keaton was going to be Batman, I never would have believed it because I don't think he was really that great of an actor. I knew him in Mr. Mom, obviously, as a child. That was it. When Batman came out, I didn't even know it was Michael Keaton because I was so little, And
he was just the most diverse Batman ever, though, because he played it when he was Batman, he was rough around the edges.
Yeah,
when he was Bruce Wayne, he was
look. Yeah, he's got that hard look where he could put the costume on and his eyes can go up and he can be mean looking. But I just, if you told me the name Michael Keaton, I would have been like, he's going to play Batman. But he did it. He did it.
And he did it fucking well. In the end, I believe that nobody's actually come on par with Keaton.
Right.
Well, before we get on to our next topic, I'm just going to say Affleck was the bomb in Phantoms, yo. No Jay and Silent Bob fans? Nobody knows where that's from?
No, I can't stand either one of them.
I feel bad. That's a great line. You guys should see. Check out Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back if you want to know where that line is from. But we're going to move on to our next big topic, and that is a bit of news coming out for Fox's Fantastic Four movie, their reboot of the series. Now, there's been a lot of news within the past few months coming out of this. Some of the biggest news including Michael B. Jordan being cast as the Human Torch, a black actor being cast as the Human Torch.
What is people's love with black actors being cast as white roles? Seriously.
We're going to talk about that when we get into remakes, but there's all sorts of news. You had the recent rumor that Josh Gad was being brought in to play the Thing, but one big rumor that's coming out now, it seems as though Fox is considering recasting Dr. Doom as a woman. They might be deciding to change the gender. They said that they are casting now for Dr. Doom, and in their words, Fox isn't ruling out switching genders for the role.
Okay. Let me explain something here. Dr. Doom was in love with Sue Storm. You know what? Good, yeah, cast her as well.
We just make Charlie's fucking angels all men.
As long as we basically have Dr. Doom have a lesbian moment with Sue Storm, I'm fine.
Yeah.
With or without the mask?
Without the mask.
Oh, okay.
Because that would be creepy with the mask. I'm not saying that I would like to see a woman dressed up as Dr. Doom and find it sexy and then strangle myself and watch myself masturbate. But still, I think, in a sense, we need to look at this and look at the fact that if you're going to do it, I want a lesbian scene. Fox, do me proud.
In all seriousness, I don't know what they're doing with the Fantastic Four characters. I don't even think they know what they're doing. I think they have...
Cast me, right? Because I'm kind of Asian looking, so cast me as
Asian. Definitely not Asian looking.
The only thing Asian looking on you, Burhan, is the size of your dick.
Oh my God!
Cast me as Mr. Fantastic, and Zach's only jealous because I've pounded his ass with my dick. Now, I cast me as Mr. Fantastic, I think.
Well, they call me Fantastic. I'm Mr. Boombastic.
Hey, that song...
Mr. Lava, said I'm Mr. Roo.
I've been listening to that song a lot, actually, but like I said, going back to the topic at hand, I don't know what they're doing. I mean, between recasting the race of the Human Torch, and it's not just a race thing, the whole... Human Torch is Sue Storm's... is it Sue Storm? Is her last name? Yeah, Sue Storm. Invisible Woman. He's supposed to be his sister, and now they're just making them kind of related, I guess, or not at all.
Are they going to have them have some incest? Is that what they're trying to try and do?
What?
Wow, Burhan, Jesus Christ.
Burhan.
Yeah, Jesus Christ, man, calm down. Do we need to leave you alone for a bit? You need me to mute your microphone?
No, it's fine. I'm just wondering... I'm just wondering here, why are they casting them as semi-related?
I have no idea. I mean, like I said, in the comics, the characters are related. They're brother and sister, but if you're going to change the race of the character, it kind of makes that a little bit more difficult unless you're going the half-sibling route. And
I think he's thinking about Star Wars. Let's just go full on Star Wars and get the brother and the sister involved with each other and all that other kind of stuff.
Everybody still hear me? Because I just got a pop-up saying there's a problem with this call.
I can still hear you.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, good. Hopefully we didn't just lose the live audience. But I don't know. Like I said, I don't know what they're doing with this Fantastic Four reboot. I think Fox kind of sees, like, we've got this comic book franchise on our hands, and comic books are big, but we don't necessarily know what we're doing with it. And in all honesty, I wish they'd have just let the license go out, because I don't know if you guys know, last year the license for the Fantastic Four was going to be up soon, and had they not announced this movie, it probably would have gone back to Marvel, because I know Marvel's been wanting to get their hands on the Fantastic Four for years, because they want to slot them into the Phase 1 universe. I don't know. To me, it almost seems like the Corman issue. Like I feel like they're just doing all this stuff just so they can pretend to have the license, just so that Disney doesn't get the rights to it. Which, you know, like I said, they've done that before in the case of Roger Corman with his Fantastic Four. But I don't know. I mean, I didn't mind the Tim Story Fantastic Four, the one with Jessica Alba. I get why people hate it. I didn't hate it, but honestly, I don't think I want to see a Fantastic Four movie at this point.
Yeah,
Hello?
I don't care about it either.
Oh, I think we lost Burhan. I think that was giving us the issue. Let me see if I can get him back onto the call. I think his internet was probably the one that was throwing us off, because it looks like my internet's, the call quality's fine. So it might have been a situation with Burhan on his end. But, Burhan,
Yeah.
are you there?
I'm back.
All right, yeah. I think it might have been on your end. That's why the connection was messed up. But,
Damn it,
yeah. We were just talking about how, honestly, at this point, I really don't care either or if they get this Fantastic Four movie off the ground. But I think they're just doing way too much to screw up the source material. And you can take liberties with the source, but when it comes to adaptations, you're playing a dangerous game with that when it comes to, like, the fan base. I mean, Man of Steel proved that. Burhan?
I agree.
Okay. Rudy, you got anything you want to say about the Fantastic Four movie?
No, not one of my interests, not going to lie.
Okay, that's fine. Fair enough. I mean, it's been a slow news day, so I kind of, that popped up in my head. Zach, before we move on, you got something you want to add to this story?
No, I agree with you that I could really care less if this happens. I saw the other ones. I mean, I didn't think they were that bad or really that good. I mean, I saw them. I didn't watch them 50 times like I did Dark Knight. But yeah, I don't really see what they're gonna do better, and I don't know why people try to screw up so much source material. And they try to say so we can make it original and new. But I don't know when that actually goes well.
Do you know the people who see comic book movies?
What was that?
Do you know who the people who see comic book movies?
Comic book
Who's yours?
fans?
There you go. So, why would you want to make it original and new to the people that have read your fucking comics?
Yeah, it does kind of defeat the purpose of adapting it, which, trust me, we'll get into that when we talk about remakes and name abuse.
Kind of retarded. I'm just saying.
We've got one more bit of news that I kind of wanted to just go through. It's kind of the weakest of the news, but I figured it's worth mentioning. It looks like Hollywood, I don't know which, Sony. It looks like Sony Pictures has finally found another director to direct their Uncharted movie, this time in the form of Identity Thief director Seth Gordon. The Uncharted Drake's Fortune adaptation has kind of gone through two other directors. First off, it was David O. Russell, but he dropped out. He was the one that famously wanted to cast Mark Wahlberg as the role of Nathan Drake.
If we saw his Max Payne movie, I'm fucking glad that didn't happen.
I still want to see that movie. I've seen trailers of it. There's something about it that's just intriguing, and I like Mark Wahlberg. I love Max Payne. I still want to see it, but I've heard nothing good about it. It's unfortunate because I do like some of the visual elements, like the whole Valkyrie Angels aspect of it, which I think looks cool. But yeah, David O. Russell was attached and he dropped out. Then they had the director for Limitless, Neil Berger, was attached to the project. He dropped out, and now it seems like they've got this new director set to direct. Hopefully he'll connect with the fans and actually listen to
What the hell?
Somebody eating chips in the background or wrinkling through paper?
Who's eating chips?
Who's not sharing?
Somebody's got popcorn.
Well, as I was saying, hopefully he'll listen to the fans and cast Nathan Fillion in the role. I know for years people have been saying that that's the person they want playing the Nathan Drake character.
He could have been such a great Nathan Drake.
Oh, yeah.
And I think
he would be a great Nathan Drake.
I
Honestly,
still think he would be an amazing, fucking Hal Jordan. I can't believe people still didn't freaking cast him in that.
Well, Neil Berger has done mostly comedies. His other big comedy that he's done was Horrible Bosses, that comedy with Jennifer Aniston, Kevin Spacey, and Colin Farrell. Going from comedies like Horrible Bosses and Identity Thief to something along the lines of Uncharted. What are your thoughts about the...
I'll call you right back. I gotta use the bathroom.
All right, go ahead, man. Go ahead, man. Burhan, your thoughts on the Uncharted movie? What's your thoughts on it?
I think there's a way to go with this. I think they've got a good concept. Do I believe it's going to work? I don't know. As I said, the problem is when Hollywood adapts something, they tend to adapt something and do it wrong instead of adapting something and make it true to the source material, which is what people want to see. If they want to see a Tomb Raider movie, they don't want to see Lara with big boobs. They want to see her struggle. They want to understand how much of a strong female character she was. And the best way that they did it was they rebooted the franchise and made a fucking awesome game.
Oh, to be fair, though, I defend the Tomb Raider movies. I don't think they were great movies, but I think in terms of adaptations, I think they were probably one of the cleaner adaptations from video game to movie. I think they really did capture the essence of the films to an extent. I mean, I think they captured the essence of the game, I think
it gave Angelina Jolie a platform to pretend she was British.
Oh, they gave her a career at that point, because up until then, she wasn't really doing anything.
Yeah, she was a nobody.
I think the only other high-profile movie she had done was, Gone in 60 Seconds with Nick Cage, and that one was kind of so-so in terms of its box office.
She was playing like a crazy sociopath in that movie, wasn't she?
Yeah. After Tomb Raider, she pretty much blew up. I think she dominated for a good solid 10 years after that. That movie made her career, which is funny to look back on, that it was a video game movie that did that for her. But Clint, I don't know if you're familiar with the Uncharted games. What are your thoughts?
I've played the demos and things like that, but I just never really got. It's not my kind of setting. You know what I mean?
Basically, imagine if Joss Whedon, the guy who did the Avengers and the Buffy series, imagine if he directed Indiana Jones. That's pretty much what you're getting at with the Uncharted series. It's kind of a more upbeat, more a much younger oriented version of that whole pulp action type movie, which kind of works. I mean, I've played the games. I like them. I think they're a lot of fun. I'm looking. You know what? This director has done good with comedy, and comedy is a big part of the Uncharted series. I think it might work. Zach, what do you think?
If they don't get Nathan Fillion for this, it's doomed from the beginning. He needs to be in this, and it definitely could be good. It could be kick-ass, but it needs to have Nathan Fillion, in my opinion, or don't even bother.
I agree with Zach, and I think the problem is they're probably not going to do it. That's a sad thing.
And I'm pretty sure he said he wanted to play the role. So I don't know why they're not just giving it to him.
Well, it's the same thing like getting a hot actor like Bryan Cranston, who was watched in one of the most watched TV shows on the fucking planet and played one of the most defining characters of his bloody career, and they won't give him Lex Luthor.
Yeah, but he wasn't even asking for it, was he?
Yeah, he was.
Oh, okay.
He was literally had himself on the platter. He goes, if they ask me, I will do it. And I'm telling Warner Brothers I want to do the role. And they're just like, let's just give it to the guy in Social Network instead.
Yeah.
He could be a demented psychopath.
It's unfortunate. I almost feel like they're doing it because they don't see Fillion as a big-time actor. I mean, he's not an A-list celebrity, and I mean, when you think of the fact that they wanted Mark Wahlberg in the role, it seems to me that they want a bigger name in that platform, and that's unfortunate because I do think you can get more out of a guy like Nathan Fillion. I think he's a great actor. You know, he's proven that in his TV roles. You know, he's a much more... The
thing is, Wahlberg isn't that great of an actor. He's okay. I enjoy most of his work, but I'll put him in the same category as Nicolas Cage. Sometimes he can be really over the top.
You know what? I'm warming up to Mark Wahlberg a lot more. He really impressed me in Pain and Gain. I think his most recent comedy work has been really good. The guy's a great actor. I mean, God, I watched The Departed, which we'll talk about in a little bit when we get into our main topic. The guy, I think, is a good actor. I think he's a lot better than people give him credit. But I think Nathan Fillion is Nathan Drake. I mean, that character was just molded to be that character. And hopefully this new director sees that and takes the risk and actually casts him in that role. I can't think of the actor off the top of my head, but he was in Horrible Bosses. He was one of the main characters. Let me see if I can just pull that up real quick on
Jason Sudeikis.
That guy's brilliant.
Yeah, that guy's really funny. There's also Charlie Day.
I don't know about... I wasn't actually thinking about him. I was actually thinking Jason Bateman. I could see him getting the role.
No.
No.
No. Not at all.
No. He did work with...
No. I
can't shoot that either.
Need more lemon pledge.
All right, fair enough.
No.
Folks, if you want to join in the conversation, 718-664-9265, the Untitled Movie Show, Episode 5, Movie Remakes. And speaking of which, we're going to be segueing from our news segment into our main topic. Now, I wanted to do this topic because we've got the release of the RoboCop remake coming up. And I think this movie looks terrible.
Shit.
Yeah.
Shit.
So I decided to bring up the topic of movie remakes. And I'm going to start off by throwing a question out there to the platform. By the way, our buddy Rudy had to step out, so he might be coming back. Hopefully he'll message me to get him back into the chat, so it's just us four guys. Burhan, I'm going to start with you.
You're having a foursome.
Do you instantly dismiss the idea of a remake, whether it's good or bad? Do you just immediately dismiss the thought? If somebody says, hey, I'm taking this movie and we're going to remake it, do you instantly go to the negative side or the positive side? Or are you just indifferent based on whichever one?
I'm indifferent. If I go watch a remake of a movie, I'll watch it. You know, like Fantastic Four, the original movie, was actually a remake. People don't know. And it had some of the similar qualities of the original movie.
Now, wait a minute. Fantastic Four. Are we talking about the Corman version?
Yes, we are.
Oh, okay.
So that was actually a remake. And I didn't mind it whatsoever. And the problem is, there's a few things that I tend to go for in characters. If the story's great, if the characters in the story mesh with what the story is about, and also the fact that if the story is something that I find intriguing, that immerses me. Because the thing about me and movies, I can switch out of a movie very easily. If I sit down and I'm watching something and I'm not shouting at the screen, you know, and getting angry with the characters or empathizing them or emoting with them, or, you know, or even in a scene where someone gets kicked in the balls, I'm holding my nuts thinking, ooh, then it doesn't work for me. And that's the problem. There's no immersion in some of these remakes. Again, I will, even though I've got a friend of mine, Kazuya White, great guy, he believes that the movie was badly edited, but I loved it. The Wolf of Wall Street. It was a bit too long, but on the same level, I hooked myself on the characters. I understood the story. I could empathize with them, and everything that happened in that movie had me hooked. And that's what a great movie works. Great storytelling, great characters, great direction. And a very few movies can make me do that. And when someone puts out a remake, you watch the source material. RoboCop, for one, and I'll use as a prime example, it was an 18-rated movie, and it had a lot of blood, a lot of gore, and it really worked because it was so over the fucking top.
It was a satire. It was supposed to be over the top.
Exactly. When you take satire and you try to make it serious, there's what. As soon as they said that, I was like, okay. And then they put it as a 12A. I was like, oh fuck.
It'd be like trying to make the South Park movie into something serious.
Yeah, it's like trying to get like fucking parody and turn it into. It's like taking, for instance, the Scary Movie franchise and trying to turn it into actual situation comedy. You know.
Well, no. That's more of a straight out parody. I think that's different.
Isn't this remake kind of a parody of the original source material?
No, I don't think it is. Although there are some aspects of the movie that do kind of poke fun at the original. For instance, there was a scene in one of the original scripts. I don't know if it's actually in the actual film, where they have different versions of the RoboCop prototype, like of the new version, and one of them is the original one. They have actually somebody in the original costume, and the costume gets laughed off the screen. It's like, why would who would take something like that seriously? It looks like an action figure, which I think is such a disrespect to the original movie. I mean, you're basically laughing at it at this point. And
it's like when they did the whole bloody thing in Devil May Cry, the new DMC game, and they had him throw off the fucking the hair of his original self.
Yeah.
In a sense, and sitting there going, what the hell was that? And you just sit there and you think to yourself, really, you're mocking the thing that we loved about you. The same for RoboCop. The fact that he's wearing that black outfit, it makes him look like fucking Batman.
I was actually thinking more like Batman crossed with Iron Man.
Yeah, it's like if Nolan directed the fucking... Well, not even Nolan. If Nolan's concept artist directed the fucking RoboCop movie. It doesn't need to happen. They sit there and go, oh, Nolan did like the black and dark Batman. Look how that did. Don't model your films off of something that's successful now. You should look at the source material and say, how can I be true to this? And they're not doing that.
Clint, what's your thoughts on this? Are you the type of person that when you hear a movie's being remade, do you immediately go to the negative or positive side? What's your first reaction?
I'm in between until I find out what it is and why. You got to look at what the first movie was. Was it terrible? Was it just a complete atrocity? Did it make any movie at the box office? Then you got to look at who's doing the movie, who's directing, who's producing, who's being cast in it. Is this something that they can take off the ground? Is this something that's going to make a lot of money? Is this something that they can make interesting? Like, let's say you take a movie, just for example, you take a movie like The Sandlot. Let's go back to when I was a kid. I'm sure we were all kids when that happened. Sandlot. You can't remake a movie like The Sandlot. But let's say somebody came out and said, this is not Sandlot 2. We are remaking The Sandlot. We're going to remake The Sandlot. So you want to look at, first of all, what's the storyline? Is it even close to what we saw when we were kids? Is it going to be kind of the same thing? Because, it's like these older folks, they don't want to see new baseball players coming out these days named Babe Ruth and Mickey Mantle. You don't want to see somebody trying to act like somebody else, and they're never going to hold a candle to them. But if these guys were terrible, let's say it was, let's say it wasn't a movie that was as good as Sandlot. Let's say it was something like, I don't know.
Here's another one.
What's a terrible movie from back then?
How about The Thing?
Okay, The Thing. Yeah, you look at The Thing. Me, totally not interested. Somebody is going to have to write this big sexy hook, like somebody like Michael Bolton or somebody. The Lonely Island's going to have to get involved. You're going to have to get somebody in there that can take the ideal of The Thing, and they can do something with it, and they can make it interesting. Because to me, it's just not. I'm never into movies like those. I never have been, never will be. And if you take something like that, you got to look at why they're remaking it. Okay, was it a bust first? Were people interested? Has it just been too damn long since anybody's even seen it? What can we do with this movie? So, I'm on the fence when I first hear that there's a remake, kind of like I'm on the fence when I first hear that.
Down back.
All right, thanks. That's Rudy, by the way, guys. Rudy's back.
All right. I like Rudy's picture, by the way. But, it's kind of like I'm on the fence when somebody says, hey, we're going to come out with another Indiana Jones movie or something like that. Like, when I heard about, Indiana Jones 4, do we really want to see this?
You're not going to like the Indiana Jones 5 that's in development?
I'm probably not. I'm never going to watch another Superman movie. I'm never going to watch another Indiana Jones movie. And it just like if there was another Home Alone movie that ever came out. To me, there's only 2 Home Alone movies that ever came out, and that was 1 and 2.
Yep.
And the others are a bunch of garbage. But I'm absolutely on the fence when somebody says we're going to remake a movie, because you got to figure out why they're doing it and if there's going to be a benefit to it. If they're coming out with the same crap, if they're going to tell the exact same story when the movie was bad the first time, nobody wants to see it. But if they're going to make it look new, if it's something like The Sandlot, and 20 years from right now somebody comes out with another Sandlot and says, hey, we're going to remake Sandlot, and they do it the exact same way, like there's a huge dog in this guy's backyard and they're playing in the Sandlot, and there's, the story at the swimming pool and all that. If they're telling the exact same story, the movie was so successful the first time, then yeah, I'm in that. I want to go back to when I was a kid. I want to relive those moments and see it look new instead of the way it looked on VHS back in the 90s, So there's just a lot of different factors that go into it. But no, I'm not yay or nay when I hear there's a remake coming out.
But that's the thing. Look at the Thing remake, and I wanted to put up a big one on this. The Thing itself, the original movie, what did you guys think of it?
Now hold on. When you mention that, are you talking about the John Carpenter one or the 1950s version, Thing from Another World? Because a lot of people don't realize the original John Carpenter's The Thing, that actually was a remake itself of the 1950s movie The Thing from Another World.
But how did John Carpenter make it better?
He adapted more of the original source material, because Thing from Another World, I'd say, is maybe 40% closer to the original short story Who Goes There, whereas Carpenter's version is, I'd say, 85 to 90% more accurate to the source.
Yeah, and the reason being, also, he managed to give that whole survival horror aspect to it,
Yeah.
No one knew who the enemy was. Everyone was on constant alert.
He brought his own feel to the movie, and that's something I wanted to get into, talking about that before we get into the before we get through the main question. But let's get your thoughts, Rudy. When you hear that a movie is being remade, what's your initial thoughts? Are you yay or nay, regardless of whether you know the movie's going to be good or not?
Which one are we talking about exactly? I know you were talking about several, the Sandlots and.
We were talking about remakes, just remakes in general. Like, if you hear a certain movie is being remade, are you yay or nay? Are you willing to give the movie a chance, or are you just basically going to dismiss it and going, it's a remake, 0 stars?
I'm quite fed up. I think as I said before, but since now this is all about remakes, it's good I get to really talk about my piece here. When Psycho was remade, I watched it. It pissed me off because Vince Vaughn is not Anthony Perkins, so I was like, okay, whatever.
That was a terrible choice.
When they did the remake of Halloween's, yeah, they were a little bit gory and stuff. I watched them, but Rob Zombie is no John Carpenter, nor is he a Masuda Ahmad. So those were kind of nays right there. I did watch them. So I've gotten to the point where there's been so many remakes, they're starting to piss me off, and it's just there's no originality left. So now, yeah, I kind of say nay. I mean, if you make Back to the Future, I'm not going to watch it. They made the Oz movie, I didn't watch it. I don't care if it's a certain, so-called prequel. To me, they're trying to remake something. If you remake Pulp Fiction, I might go bananas in a bad way, just leave it alone. Leave these good movies alone and make your own. Enough said.
Zach, what's your thoughts on remakes? Like, if you hear a movie is being remade, are you the type of person to just yay or nay, to just dismiss it, or are you willing to give it a chance?
I normally will watch, when I first hear about it, I'll probably watch the trailer immediately. And one thing that will always make me angry immediately is if, like, the movie is just saturated with, like, CGI. Say if it came from, like, an older film. Because a lot of times, like, robotic motion can look amazing. If done right, like, it will blow your mind, like, how perfect it looks. And I think some people now think, like, you can make movies great just by using CGI and technology. I mean, you look at the train wrecks that, in my opinion, Transformers, they tried to do, like, all this crazy CGI shit, and I think it sucked, and I think those movies were boring as hell. I know, like, they weren't necessarily, like, remakes, but I just hate when people try to remake things just because they think modern technology can make them better, because it's not necessarily true, and I don't like that idea of thinking. One thing somebody mentioned about directors or writers, putting their own spin. I have never actually seen the Super Mario Brothers movie, but I've seen pictures, and I love the look of them. I love the modern to the day kind of look, and I love how it's kind of dark and grungy type look, and I love the way they look as characters, and I think that's an amazing look, and that's something that one reason I actually really want to see that movie. But so I don't think. Like somebody said, come up with something new. I agree. There's too many remakes nowadays. There's just too much shit being remade. Total Recall, that did not need a remake. The 80s one or whatever year that came out kicked all kinds of ass.
Oh,
still does.
I love it. Consider this a divorce.
Yeah, but I don't think it should be as intense as it is. There's so many being done, but I do not judge immediately when I hear. I mean, I'd like to hear who's doing it and maybe check out a trailer and then kind of make my decision on what I think it'll be like.
And see, my biggest problem with remakes nowadays, more so now than ever, is it seems to me that Hollywood is more fascinated with the name of a franchise than actually making a proper reboot. It seems like Hollywood has these movies that by themselves would probably be very forgettable, but they feel like, okay, we could probably squeeze out a couple more $1 million if we attach a name to it. Like, for example, you brought up the Total Recall remake. Had it not been called Total Recall, I don't think there would have been as much of a backlash against the movie. I think it would have probably been it probably would have done better for the movie in the long run had it been called something else besides Total Recall. I think this need to attach big names to these movies that really don't need them is the biggest problem with movies nowadays, is that these movies aren't made to be remakes. They're made to be cash-ins. They're made to be, we've got this alien, this alien attack movie, let's attach The Thing to it, even though it resembles nothing like John Carpenter's The Thing. We've got this vampire movie. We've got this vampire movie that we want to put out, but we want to get a few $1 million out of it. Well, let's attach the Fright Night franchise to it. We've got this Greek, mythos movie that we want to get some money out of. Let's attach the Clash of the Titans name to it. It seems like Hollywood is just basically abusing these names, and they're not necessarily paying homage to the history of the movie. And I'm going to go back to the 80s remakes, which are The Fly, The Blob, The Thing, and I know this movie isn't 80s, it's technically 78 or 79, but Invasion of the Body Snatchers. Those movies were remakes of 1950s, 1960s movies, but they not only felt like they paid respects to the movies, they had enough of a identity to them to where they were their own things and they could stand up on their own feet. Movies nowadays don't have that. Total Recall, like I said, probably wouldn't have been as remembered had it not, the new one, probably would not have been as remembered had it not been for the fact that it was called Total Recall. That's basically my thoughts on it. I don't know what you guys might think about that. Hello?
I didn't even like the movie anyway, so I'm out on that whole discussion.
Well, like I said, you look back on stuff like the Thing, for instance. That movie, I know, Clint, it's not your thing, but I'm talking about it from a historical perspective. You look at that movie, and that movie could stand up on its own, regardless of being called The Thing. It brought so much to it in terms of its writing, in terms of its special effects, definitely. You look at The Fly, for instance. God, the special effects in that were amazing. That some of the best of the time. The Blob also I just saw, which was a good which was a good remake. The Invasion of the Body Snatchers, I think, was a great movie. Those movies were able to stand up on their own. They didn't need the license, but they were able to take the license and do more of it. And I think we need to see that more in movies if they're going to make remakes of them.
Yeah.
You also have a situation where you have cases of movies being remade from movies overseas. Like, a lot of people don't realize that The Departed is actually a remake of, I believe it's either Korean or... Yeah, it's a remake of...
Internal Affairs.
Yeah, Internal Affairs. It's a remake of an Asian film. And Scorsese took the rights to it, and he made it his own movie.
But he made an accurate version of it.
Yeah. Look at the Japanese horror films that have come out. A lot of them have been, a lot of them, the earlier ones, I mean, like The Grudge and The Ring, those movies are remakes of, obviously Japanese horror films, but they paid respect to it and they were able to stand up on their own 2 feet. What do you think about that? About movies being remade overseas? Do you think that should be something that Hollywood should do more of? Because it seems like that they're doing better with that than doing remakes of American films.
It needs to be a proper actor. That's the problem. It needs to be proper actors, proper scripting, and they need to make sure they stay real to the text. If you get someone out there and they misuse it, like The Grudge was okay, it wasn't amazing, but then they started doing all the fucking sequels, it didn't work. And that's the problem. When, I'm going to say it, U-Bowl, when he did those game adaptions, they didn't work. And a lot of it is because people think, oh, I'm a creator, I can make my own version of it. So what I'll do is I'll take that script over there and take the thing and turn it into my own version. And what happens? It's a pile of shit. Why?
Well, it wasn't even a specific version. It goes back to what I was saying. There's no soul to it. I mean, it doesn't. You wouldn't be able to attach it to any specific director. It seems like something anybody could do. It can't stand up on its own 2 feet. There's nothing there.
Yeah, because it's been done. That's the problem. It's like War of the Worlds. When Tom Cruise did that, they expected it to be like franchised out and have loads of versions of it. Why didn't it work? Because it wasn't selling. People have seen it before.
I just think that wasn't a good movie to begin with. I saw that movie in the theaters. I was not impressed by it at all.
A lot of remakes are also failing. If you look at Silent Night, Deadly Night, the remake called Silent Night failed. Fucking movie grossed like $38. There's movies out there that just don't make it. Actually, excuse me, that wasn't the movie that made $38. There was another horror movie that made $38. But Silent Night, Deadly Night fucking grossed like $1,600. It's just retarded. The remake. You just can't do it. It's starting to show that people are getting sick of it. They want new movies or re-release the old ones. I mean, what are you supposed to do? You can't just, you can't keep doing this. It's not going to work.
I'm
sorry.
No, I didn't mean to cut you off. I wasn't sure.
No, it's okay. You're not going to remake Critters and make it the same. The Nightmare on Elm Street, in my opinion, was horrible. Because I'm a big horror fan, so I go right into the horror. If you remake The Shining, are you kidding me? I mean, are you going to remake Misery too? I mean, come on.
No, I agree. And like American Werewolf in London, they remade that.
Oh, God.
Yeah, they made it with American Werewolf in Paris, which I remember that, yeah.
They remade Maniac, too.
Yeah, that one was weird, because that one was all in a first-person view, wasn't it?
It was all in and out of the movies, too, in about a fucking week. Nobody even talked about it. Nobody even knew about it. You just can't do these things. You can't make when they remade Texas Chainsaw Massacre, they made it just a waste.
It's been done to death. That's the problem.
Yeah.
When you take something and you want to put a different spin on it, there's no different spin. It's the same material, and people are always going to compare it to its source. I did like the prequel, however, the last one they made. I did like that one. That was like going back in time before the incident of 1973. So I liked that one, where he was living at home and the cousin was there and everything.
You mean the Texas Chainsaw, the beginning?
Yes, that I liked. I did like that because I kind of felt like that was in connection of before time. So I kind of liked that.
And that goes back to something I wanted to talk about when it comes to genre remakes, where it seems like they want to take an older franchise and modernize it for the modern day. The problem is that a lot of these franchises kind of live because of their time capsule, because they are a product of their day. I'm thinking to the Red Dawn remake. Red Dawn was not a great movie, the original 80s one.
No,
but
it wasn't.
As Brad Jones said in his review of it, it was good at being Red Dawn. I mean,
yes.
When you think of Red Dawn, you think of 80s anti-Soviet jingoism vibe that movie had, and it worked. It was a campy fit, for that time.
Yeah.
When they remade it today, it just didn't work. You know, they tried to do it with, I think, the North Koreans. Originally it was going to be the Chinese, but they had to digitally take them out and replace it with North Korea. And it didn't work. It was just a soulless action movie, you know. And do you think that they do a detriment to themselves when they try to bring in these franchises that they don't seem to understand why the franchise worked, and because of that, when they try to attach modern-day sentiments to it, it just doesn't translate well?
It's not that. As I said, it's comparison. You're going to always compare. Zach makes the best eggs in the world, right? And he's got a restaurant where he's making everybody these awesome eggs. And then I open up a restaurant next to him, mimicking everything that he does, but he's got that special ingredient in his recipe that I can't mimic. Whose eggs are you going to eat? Zach.
Yeah, I don't know if I want to have a taste of your eggs.
My eggs, the eggs I make only come fried and fertilized.
So basically, Zach's a horse. But do you know what I mean? It's one of those things that you look at it and you think, he knows, he's got his recipe. It's like opening a parody of KFC, even though the Colonel knows what he's fucking doing. It comes out to the fact that you make a movie based on the same movie that was done ages ago. People are going to want to see the original, you know? They're going to want to see that. Rarely someone can come out and make a movie so good, like, you know, as you said, Internal Affairs and The Departed. The Departed was an original take on the source.
No idea. I had no fucking idea. I wonder if
so fucking good.
That's the thing. I've seen remakes that I didn't know that there was originals for, but I didn't like them all. And then I went and saw the original. Like, House on Haunted Hill was a fucking joke. But when I saw House on Haunted Hill with Vincent Price, I could watch that over and over again any fucking day.
Well, it goes back to something I was going to talk about. What about those movies that are remakes of movies that not necessarily were known to people? Like, for instance, a lot of people don't realize Denzel Washington's Man on Fire, that's a remake. That was originally
and
a remake.
Mummy movies with Brendan Fraser. I love those, so I have to say that's one remake I definitely like, but I also like Rachel Weisz. Oh, my God.
Steven Soderbergh's Ocean's 11 is a remake of an old Frank Sinatra movie.
Yes, it was.
Cape Fear, the Martin Scorsese, Robert De Niro film, that's a remake as well. Do you think that's an angle that a lot of
House on the Left or some shit like that?
Last House on the Left, that was a remake of a Wes Craven movie. Do you think that's an angle that Hollywood should take where, okay, if they want to remake movies, fine.
Do it right.
No, remake movies that most people don't know about. I think that they would probably save off a lot more scrutiny if they did that. If they're like, all right, you've got this movie, you want to attach a somewhat known name, do one that isn't known by people, and maybe if you're lucky, you can craft your own image behind that.
I agree. Yeah, I agree with that. You made a good point. There are some remakes of movies that are lesser known that are better than the original. Very few, but they do exist. I would have to say a couple of them that you mentioned, you know, like that House on the Left thing. You know, obviously the newer one was a little bit better, I think, but I don't know about, you know, like Spit on Your Grave. I'm sure the new one was better. That was just a fucking horrible movie. And then, you know, there's a bunch of them out there. You know,
Father of the Bride, 1991, Steve Martin. That was a remake from 1950. Spencer Tracy was in that.
Was it really? See, I didn't know that.
Yeah. Spencer Tracy got a Best Actor nomination, Oscar nomination for that.
Are we going to go back and find out that Meet the Fockers and Along Came Polly and all these movies are fucking remakes?
Well, here's another one that'll blow your mind. The Homeward Bound, The Incredible Journey. That was a remake from 1963.
No fucking way.
Yeah.
Wow. I mean,
wow.
For a lot of those,
sometimes it works. But these are lesser known films, right?
How about Mr. Deeds Goes to Town, 1936?
Yeah, it was remade by Adam Sandler. You've got a lot of those.
I'm sure Mr. Deeds was better back in the 30s. I hate to say it, I'm sure.
Or we can actually talk about Arthur.
Oh, the Arthur remake? I haven't seen it. I've heard on and off.
That made me mad. Yeah, I didn't like they did that because you can't beat Dudley Moore. There's no way. Or what the hell's her name? Oh my God, you guys, help me out here.
I have no idea. I avoided the Arthur remake.
I watched it.
No, the old
I
girl,
wanted my life back.
The original. I'm sorry, I don't mean to interrupt. I was just thinking out loud. The one from Arthur, the original Arthur. Liza Minnelli. You can't redo Liza Minnelli. And,
I love her.
And what do you call it? And Dudley Moore. And you sure as hell ain't going to redo that friggin' Butler guy either. It's just not going to happen.
Well, nobody thought that Gone in 60 Seconds could be redone either. But back in 1974, there was a car, it was a '73 Ford Mustang Mach 1, and it was called Eleanor. And it was the whole premise of everything that happened in 2000 with Nicolas Cage. So, that was a remake as well.
I want to see that movie. I've heard it. I've heard on and off things. It looks fun. I mean, I've seen bits and pieces of the TV cut, and that looked pretty good. It looked like a standard late 90s, early 2000s action movie. I might have to check that out. But yeah, that's an angle that I think a lot of Hollywood should go by. If you're going to remake movies, don't take movies that we've seen a lot of remakes of, like something like Psycho or the Exorcist. Who doesn't know about The Exorcist? Why?
I've never seen a single one of those.
Yeah, no, I know about The Exorcist, and they didn't remake that, did they?
I think they either remade it. I think that might have been a case where they just re-released the original. I don't remember.
I know that. I was in the movie theater for that, but they didn't make another one after. Yeah, no, they didn't make another one after that. They did re-release it, and then they made, prequel, sequels, whatever the fuck,
Honestly, the most recent remake that's really irritated me is the Carrie remake. Why remake
that?
Carrie?
Made me mad too. Yeah, you can't remake that fucking movie.
They've remade it about 6 times already, though.
Yeah, they did like a mini-series version of it, similar to The Shining. I think they had that awful sequel, The Rage. It was called.
Now let's talk about that mini-series of The Shining, though. You know what made it more than the original?
They stuck to the source material more, because Kubrick didn't. He basically threw the book out and was like, "Screw it, I'm doing my own thing."
Yeah. And it was it was good for what it was, but it did drag along in parts, in a sense.
Yeah.
Well, a lot of his things were done in the miniseries. The Stand was, Rose Red. That one was. I want to say.
Tommy Knockers.
That one was a made-for-TV thing too.
Yeah, that was a miniseries.
Okay, yeah. A lot of his things were done in miniseries, but I think they were normally just done that way because his books were just entirely too long. So,
Ocean's 11 was better too. The original Ocean's 11, for sure.
Really, you thought the Sinatra one?
Yes, because of no technology. The way they did it back then was amazing.
Plus, John Cheadle kept with that fucking I've
seen that part where it's John Cheadle talking in that overly British accent.
Those guys are all stars, man. Sammy Davis Jr., fucking Dean Martin. What do you call it? What's his name? Frank Sinatra. How can you compare those people, to today?
It was a George Clooney vanity project. That's what I would call that movie.
He's good, but he ain't no fucking Frank Sinatra.
But he always wanted to be Frank Sinatra. You could tell the way that he played the characters down. It was just like, I'm going to play Frankie's role. Brad's going to be playing Dean's role, and then everybody else is going to be playing the other roles in the movie, and it just got stupider and stupider. I think they should have just ended it at Ocean's 11. Then they went up to Ocean's 13. It was just like, oh.
That was stupid. It should have just been Ocean's 11 remake and left it at that, but no, they had to do 12 and 13.
Again, why is it? It's because they wanted to make as many sequels as they could, so it could draw, and it did draw. It did attract some people. I hated that movie with Venom because, quite like Rudy, I watched the Sinatra version and I love that movie.
For this time, that's the thing I'm looking at. When movies were old, for its time, they were so advanced for their time. I mean, when they did that Ocean's 11 back then with no technology and the way they were going to hit those 5 casinos, to me is more clever back then than it is today. Because today, if you have the money and you have technology and, you have the tools, you can get into anything eventually. Of course, it's harder than it was back then, but back then, to do it without any knowledge, to know how to do it, no computer to look up, you know what I mean? Everything was done by hand and head. There was nothing else to help you. So I thought that was very impressive.
You can also say that about some remakes in terms of like action remakes. Now, I know what the movie I'm about to list technically isn't a remake, but it's a great example of why certain franchises can't exist in a modern-day era. Look at the original Die Hard and the way that movie is built.
Right.
And then compare it to Die Hard 4 and just how that movie is built.
No, you're right.
Yeah, from an action standpoint, action movies are built so much more differently now than they were then. Back then, they were very much character-driven movies.
That's probably why Arnold was probably like, if you remake Commando or you do a sequel, I'm going to kill you.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's because they've tried remaking Arnold movies with other people. What people don't understand, what made those movies so special was Arnold, because he's cheesy as fucking hell. You know,
He's just got it. He's just got it. Nobody could have done that Commando, the way he did it. Nobody could do it.
No, fuck you, asshole.
Yeah,
You know,
exactly. Somebody else could have been tougher and be like, "Fuck you, asshole," but it wouldn't have been funny. But the way he did it, and he made killing and murder funny. Like, he made it entertaining, like, to watch. When he would kill somebody, you'd start laughing your head off.
Yeah, and that's exactly it. And when you look at it, it's funny because that you have this guy.
It's not supposed to be either. It's not supposed to be funny. It's supposed to be serious. But when he kills somebody, the faces that he makes and the
when I said I would kill you last. Yeah. I lied. Ah.
Oh my god, that was awesome!
Yeah, But when he gets hit by a grenade, it's not funny. But that thing in the airplane was so unrealistic. But back then, it was so advanced for its time. It was just amazing.
Yeah, and if they tried to remake that movie today, it would be that same spectacle, but it would be played straight. It would be a lot of CGI. It wouldn't be as
very dirty too. I guarantee you, very nasty and graphic.
Honestly, I think the opposite. I think they would cut it down to a PG. I probably think they'd neuter the film a lot more. I mean, look at what they did with the RoboCop remake.
I don't know. I don't know anything about that one.
I think they did it with the RoboCop remake to sell toys, but they didn't understand was the 18-rated RoboCop sold toys anyway.
Oh, well, that's actually a bit... Well, you want a good example of that? Look at the difference between RoboCop 1 and RoboCop 3. RoboCop 3 was done exactly for that. They made it a PG, and I think it was Orion at the time specifically told the director and writer, we're making this movie to sell to kids because we're selling toys. Our audience actually skews a lot younger now. So, RoboCop's a kid franchise. And the writer and director were like, have you seen the original RoboCop? It's not a kid's movie. It just so happens to be that it was embraced by a younger audience for some reason. I mean, they basically...
It wasn't embraced by a younger audience. They just turned the fucking thing into a cartoon.
Well, yeah, by the second and third movies, but the first one skewed actually. The first one had a big young audience, even though it still kept its R rating.
And the thing is, when I watched it as a kid, that was the first time I've ever watched something like that. And my dad would just sit me down and say to me, "Hey, this is just effects. I don't want you getting scared. Don't get upset. Just watch it." And I watched it, and I loved the movie. Because it was all about Alex Murphy trying to get revenge. This is it. There was nothing serious from it. It weren't one of those movies where people were shitting themselves. I never had nightmares over it. Actually, you know what? The Godfather gave me more nightmares than that.
Really?
It was enjoyable to watch. I was a stupid kid. Oh, it was enjoyable to watch. And it's one of those things where it makes me laugh now that they're like, well, we need to make it appeal to children, so we're going to make it a 12.
I'll be right back, guys.
All right.
But yeah, I mean, it goes back to what I was talking about remakes that just don't get why the original movie worked. I mean, one of the movies that sticks out to me is the remake of Rollerball. Have any of you guys seen the original Rollerball with
No.
The original movie actually has more of a message to it. The big part of it is it's lampooning against the whole trash sports craze. Like, I think at the time roller derby was big and people were complaining about that, and it was kind of how TV and networks were starting to get a lot more ruthless, and we were it was making fun of a lot of the tropes that we take for granted today, like the whole reality TV thing and the whole trash TV aspect. It was bashing that in the 70s. And the movie lived on because of it. It had a message to it. The 2001 remake is just basically just a generic action movie, which is unfortunate because it's not even a good action movie. Which is even more unfortunate because it was actually made by John McTiernan, who I think is a good director, but man, he had an off day that day, I guess. But why do you think studios don't understand why a movie is worth remaking? They don't realize that these movies do have a message to it. They're just like, hey, this name works, let's take advantage of it.
They're just riding coattails, man. It's like I was saying earlier, it'd be like if some new baseball player came out named Mickey Mantle. I mean, who the hell wouldn't watch this guy on TV or buy a jersey that said Mantle on the back of it? You know what I mean? It's just coattails. It's all about coattails.
Well, Clint, since you mentioned baseball movies, have you seen the remake of Bad News Bears with Billy Bob Thornton?
No, and I will not watch it either.
Yeah, like I think that I thought of that when you mentioned like a remake of The Sandlot, because I haven't heard a good thing about the Billy Bob Thornton remake of Bad News Bears, but I'm kind of like, why? Do you really need to remake it? Walter Matthau's original one was actually really good. That's fine. I'll stick with that. You don't have to.
Well, you know
remake it.
that was the whole story behind it. I mean, he's just an old disgruntled man who's been doing what he's doing way too long. Everybody had a baseball coach like Walter Matthau when they were a kid. Walter Matthau in that movie. Everybody had a coach like him. I know I did. I had a coach that was so old. He used to walk around calling us piss ants and saying toot toot all the time, and he would sit on an ice chest and he would pull out a beer and drink it when somebody hit the ball down the third base line. I mean, that's just the way the guy was. You know, you get Billy Bob Thornton in there. Billy Bob Thornton, he's just not the same. It's just totally not even the same.
Yeah. Like I said, different generational gaps. You know, it's just it's hard to remake movies nowadays because you have to make them for their generation, and unfortunately, I don't think that some of these movies can work like that. I mean, we talked about it's unfortunate Rudy's gone because we were talking about horror remakes. That's one of the biggest problems I have with horror remakes nowadays and scary movie remakes is that a lot of those movies work because they work within their time frame. And when you try to remake them, you have to make them of this time, and it just goes against each other, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, look at something like the Halloween remakes, you know? That movie was made to look like a modern-day movie, to the point to where, aside from the Michael Myers aspect of it, there's nothing about it that screams Halloween. You know, you've got the characters there, but you don't have the essence, because it feels too much like a remake of today.
Yeah.
You know, it just kind of defeats the whole point of it all. You know, it's...
Well, you know, there's some people like me who look for that new aspect of it. You know, they want to see it today, like it would look like today. But, you know, when you change the whole storyline and when you, I mean, I get with the Bad News Bears, it was kind of the same storyline, but there was just so much that was different with it. You know, and that's not one of those ones that you want to see a new one of. It's kind of like, what's another classic 80s, like The Breakfast Club or something like that. You know, nobody wants to see a new one of those. What are they going to do, throw a bunch of Disney stars in there and turn it into a musical? I mean, it's just not, people just don't want to see stuff like that.
And I agree with Clint on that. It's the fact that if you're going to do something, if you're going to do it, make it as great as the original. Do something, you know, like sit down and go through everything that made the original so great and sit there and think, how can I use that to bring this movie to life?
Yeah,
but they don't.
And I've actually been campaigning. Folks, by the way, we're heading into the 15-minute mark on our show. If you want to just get in real quick and talk about movie remakes, it's the Untitled Movie Show. Call-in number 718-664-9265. I got to get used to, like, throwing out the numbers more often, but we don't get any callers, so who cares?
When we do, there's usually someone sticking something up his ass.
Yeah, it's usually a troll.
Or getting punching bags stuffed in his butt in the gym.
I remember that. But yeah, I've actually been pushing really hard for Hollywood to be like, all right, if you're going to remake a movie, remake a bad movie. You know, give us a reason to go out and see a remake of a movie because the original just wasn't good but had potential. Like, for instance, one of my favorite movies, and
Stigmata.
Was that a remake?
No, I'm just saying remake that one. That was terrible.
Yeah, like remake something like that. I mean, the premise is interesting, just the execution was bad. I mean, go back and do it right, and maybe you can salvage the movie. Like, I haven't seen the original, but one of my favorite movies is the Paul W.S. Anderson remake of Death Race. I love that movie. I think that movie's a lot of fun. But you look back, and, you know, it's a Roger Corman movie. I know Stallone was in the original one, Death Race 2000, but I love the modern-day remake. That's a good example of taking a movie that maybe wasn't as good as the original and doing something better. Like, for instance, I know that a lot of people were mad that they're remaking this franchise and rebooting it, but I'm going to say it right now, I have high hopes for the Highlander remake. I love
don't know.
I love the original, but the Source, that last one that they did, which was a Sci-Fi Pictures movie, destroyed the franchise to the point to where, you know what? I'm okay with this. Go ahead. Reboot the movie, remake it. I like the original, but I have the original. I'm fine. If you want to go back and maybe do it right, do the franchise, the way it should have been, more power to you.
It depends on who they put in these movies, though, too, with the remakes. The remakes have to be done also with good actors and actresses if you're going to do them, in my opinion.
Well, right now, I think the Connor McLeod they have signed for it is going to be played by Ryan Reynolds.
Ugh.
He signed on to play Connor McLeod in the.
What is with him? I don't understand what the deal is with that
Why
guy.
does he keep choosing such shitty roles? He's a good actor.
Well, why do they? No, he's not. Why do they keep choosing him for this stuff? He
Right,
is not a good actor at all.
Have you seen Buried?
No.
Watch that movie and come back to me about Ryan Reynolds.
Man,
Yeah.
I watched the previews and I'll come back to you about it. The previews
No.
are god awful.
Watch
I don't even.
the movie. It's on Netflix.
I'm not interested.
Watch it. Watch the movie.
I'll say this. I think I've said my biggest problem with Ryan Reynolds is I think he's a weak lead actor, but I think when you give him the right material, he could probably make the most of it. I think he's got a charisma to him, and I think one of the reasons they like him is because he's a good person to work with. The studios like him. He does his job right. He's got his fan base. I can kind of see why the studios keep putting him in roles like this, but man, I do agree. I think he needs to pick better roles, but who knows? I know I'm not expecting him to be Christopher Lambert. I'm not.
Jacket and what up?
Oh, okay.
Did you just say Lambert?
Yeah, Christopher Lambert. That's
I
it.
call him Lambert. And the thing is, I agree.
Lambert, I don't know.
I agree with what Miguel's saying, apart from the Lambert thing. The fact is,
Go ahead.
when you look at it and you look at the character of him and the Highlander movie, those kind of movies are funny and there's kind of satire. You had like a Scotsman playing a freaking Italian-Egyptian hybrid, whatever the fuck he wants to call himself, and you had a Frenchman playing a Scotsman.
That actually worked. I didn't realize he was actually French until I realized Lambert is a French last name. That's why I pronounced it like that. Rudy, can you mute your microphone? I'm hearing chatter in the background.
Sorry about that.
Yeah, I mean, Burhan, is there any way I can mute him from this end?
Somebody
You won't be able
collect the
to.
rent.
I would have to you'd have to just drop him from the call. But
I forgot to throw a couple of things away tonight, so I'm getting,
oh, don't worry, my mum scolded me on the live video stream about yelling. But yeah, when it comes down to those, the cheesiness is what made it work. There's either two ways they can go with having Ryan Reynolds. They can either make it uber serious, and it's just going to throw everything out of whack, or they're going to have Ryan Reynolds play it stupid and comedic.
Well, they went serious with the franchise in the TV version. I think Adrian Paul did a pretty good job with that.
It kind of dragged on a little bit too much, though.
Yeah, I like the concept of Highlander. In fact, I think it'd probably make for a better TV series than a movie. The whole
No,
concept
we've
of,
done that.
Yeah, that's true. But we've got 10 minutes left in the show. I don't know if we're gonna have enough material to keep going into the live show. We might, but what do you think are some sacred cow films? Like, what are films in your mind that should never be remade? That are just too ingrained in the pop culture that you think Hollywood should never put their hands on? Burhan, we'll start with you.
That's a funny thing, because I think with Hollywood, nothing's out of order. I really do.
You want me to start then? Because I got one off the top of my head.
There's only one.
Sorry about that. The missus was yelling at me about some shower curtain I forgot to throw out or something. You know
Why
how
don't you throw her out?
Throw her ass out, son.
Well,
Guys, there's only one movie in the history of the world that can never and should never be remade.
okay.
It's A Wonderful Life with Jimmy Stewart.
Yeah.
I agree. You can't remake that movie. He's right.
Never.
Yeah.
Maybe Miracle on 34th Street shouldn't have been remade either.
Yeah, It's a Wonderful Life is I agree. That's one that I think is too ingrained in the pop culture to be remade.
It's going to happen, though. You know somebody.
Well, somebody's trying to do it right now. There was a big story about it, I think, back in maybe March or April of this past year, and they were talking about some family of the family in the movie, and they were trying to get the rights to the movie, and they were trying to remake it, but the studio said no, and it was just it may have been somebody in Jimmy Stewart's family, but somebody was wanting to remake this movie, and then too many people just came out and said, this is not something that you remake. This is like dropping the A-bomb again. You don't drop the A-bomb again. It's going to destroy everything. So let's go ahead and not do that.
Well, they're trying to get. Well, people have been trying to get the rights to It's a Wonderful Life for years, ever since Universal managed to take it out of the public domain. Which is really scummy the way they managed to do that.
How do they do that? They just register it?
No, what happened was, for the longest time, It's a Wonderful Life has been a public domain movie, which means anybody can play it. That's why around Christmas you see it pop up on every TV station. Because
actually, that's not true. NBC is the only channel that's played it for as long as I can remember.
I think up until about the 80s that was the case, to where it could. What happened was Universal did research, and they found out that while the movie itself is public domain, the soundtrack to it is owned by Universal. It was registered to them when it was made in the 30s. And since the soundtrack to it is so ingrained in the movie, the music cues up with elements of the film, Universal was able to convince the courts to get the movie out of the public domain. So I think since the 1980s, Universal has had the rights to the actual movie. But I know that some people, like the Stewart family, have been trying to get the rights to it because even though, like I said, the soundtrack is copyrighted, the movie itself isn't. So there's a whole controversy over that. But that's a case, I think, that's one of the few cases out there of a studio getting a movie out of the public domain. But you know what? I don't think that It's a Wonderful Life is ever going to be remade theatrically. I could see some bad ABC Family remake, NBC decides, hey, let's get some B-list actors and let's remake it for a TV movie.
1994 is when Republic signed a long-term deal granting NBC the exclusive rights to broadcast the movie, and the network does between 1 and 3 times a year. And so they only do it the day before, Christmas Eve maybe, or Christmas Day or something like that. They only do it a couple of times a year. It's not very very many times, but it won't re-enter public domain for a while. Congress has expanded the copyright protections and made them effective retroactively. So there's no way somebody can come in and in fact they just added 20 years to all existing copyright claims.
Yeah, that was actually I think that was early 90s they did that. Trust me, I can go into that whole controversy over public domain.
Yeah.
Till the cows come home. There's just the way that happened. But yeah, I agree. It's a Wonderful Life is one. The Godfather, I'm going to say, that's going to be the one I choose. I think that's a sacred cow movie. I don't see how anybody can remake that, at least in the modern era.
Yeah.
Rudy, what's a sacred cow film for you? What's a film that in your mind could and should never be remade?
I've got one actually.
Oh, all right. Rudy, we'll get to you in a bit. Burhan, what's your...
Fine.
Back to the Future.
Yes.
Taking away all the good ones that I'm...
Back to the Future is one I agree.
This is the reason why. I heard that the movie was going to be remade. I heard rumors that they were going to put Justin Bieber in the role of Marty McFly. And they don't understand.
Hold on. You got to give me a second on that one. You just hold on. I need a second. A second. Just the thought of Justin Bieber in Michael J. Fox's iconic role. I need a second. Okay.
Exactly. Now, the stupidity is the fact that these movies, one, they were great story devices. They told us some fun stories, and if you ever want to see another variation of them, play the Telltale game, because it reminds you so much about the movies and has all those lovable elements that made the movies work. And with the Back to the Future films, you had this kooky scientist, you had this kid who idolized the guy. You had his family issues, his mum being a bit, I'm not even going to go there, but kind of incesty.
The 50s version, yeah.
Yeah, and it's one of those things that you look at it and you think to yourself, wow, you know. All those things don't make a great movie, but somehow the acting, the script, the direction, everything sort of gelled together with a cast of people who were at the time considered TV actors. You know, none of these guys were considered major film actors. You had a bit of controversy going on set, but it worked. And
Wait, what was the controversy?
Oh, you know, with McFly's father.
Crispin Glover?
Yeah, he ended up suing them because they tried to use his likeness for the second movie.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Then when you thought, oh, you know, this is the best movie ever, they then came out with a sequel, and then they came out with a third movie, and they really made these movies work. And every element of the story gelled together. And for me, as an avid fan of this, if they made a fourth movie, I would love to see Michael J. Fox and Christopher Lloyd sort of reunite. But the story would have to be good. The characters would have to all be there. Marty and Doc, the way that we've all perceived them, should be there. You know, the fact that they're even thinking about this, I want to take my big knob out. Actually, I want to take Zach's big knob out and just destroy hordes of movie execs with it.
Well, you're never going to emulate the style of directing that Robert Zemeckis has. I think he's one of my favorite directors, and no one can direct a movie like he does. I mean, he just has this. I think the best way I could say it, very whimsical feel to his movies. I mean, whether it's Back to the Future, whether it's some of his like later horror films that he's done, like what was that one with Bruce Willis that he did from the early '90s? I keep forgetting about it, but him and it was Bruce Willis and Goldie Hawn. I think it was Death Becomes Her. That was the Robert Zemeckis film.
That was so good.
That's a very underrated movie.
Yeah, and the thing about it is, if you look at the way that that he does his movies, no one's ever going to give that time and love that Robert Zemeckis put for the movie. And because people are sort of confined by deadlines, you can have someone who's either a fanboy and end up pushing the film too far, or someone who has no understanding of the source material and try and put their own take.
Yeah.
In the end, it's not going to work. And as far as I'm concerned, it will bastardize my original memory of the movie like George Lucas bastardized my memory of the Star Wars movies.
Yeah. Rudy, what's your sacred cow movie?
Well, I mean, you guys took away a lot of the good ones already. It's hard for me to say. I'm just going to mention several of them really fast, and then you guys, can think about it, what you think. Misery should not be remade. Lethal Weapon definitely should not be remade. The Shining, and then I'm going to name a fourth one. I'm just thinking really quick here. Those three definitely not. And you can't remake. Oh my God, what is it? That's too soon. I'm trying to think of something that's Pulp Fiction. But you can't remake those movies. You just can't.
Yeah, because that had the Tarantino stamp on it. Again, you're not going to basically put that movie like Pulp Fiction out and then have someone else direct it, because it's not going to be Pulp Fiction. It's going to be someone else trying to do a different movie and just calling it Pulp Fiction.
It goes even beyond that. I mean, how are you going to do it the way that they did it? I mean, that movie is so confusing. I'm not going to lie. Up until a few years back, about 5-6 years ago, I didn't understand it. I loved the movie, but I didn't understand it. Then I puzzled it all together, and now I understand, what it was, what was in order, how it worked. But a lot of people to this day don't understand the puzzle of it. Well, why is this scene this? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's all scrambled.
Yeah, I definitely agree. That's one of those films that you can't get anybody to do it. And I think Tarantino would pretty much slaughter the studio if they even thought about touching Pulp Fiction without his permission. Yeah,
Tarantino and George Clooney together, or even Tarantino by himself after that, have really revolutionized a lot of these movies, in my opinion.
Yeah. And, folks, we've got 1 more minute left in the live show. Thank you for joining us. We're going to get Zach's opinion on his sacred cow, and then we're going to go into the overtime segment where we're going to rattle off some bad remakes and just our thoughts on what some of the worst remakes are. So thanks for joining us. If you want to keep listening to us, you can listen to us on the archive section, blogtalkradio.com/RU-network. This has been the Untitled Movie Show for the live show for Michael Burhan, Clint Davis, Rudy Ferretti, and Zach Latour. Thanks for joining us. We are going to be going into our archived section in 30. So, Zach, real quick, what's your sacred cow movie?
I agree with Burhan. It's Back to the Future. But I will say that the one thing that I did like the video game, I thought the story was great. The game itself was complete trash. The way that it worked was shit, but the story was awesome. And the one thing that I do like about, I mean, I don't necessarily need I like ideas of expanded universe. I don't need another movie of Back to the Future. If someone wanted to write a book, that went somewhere, or make another game, I'm 100% down with those things. I don't necessarily need a movie. I just like the universe to keep expanding and keep reading new stories about stuff.
I agree. Back to the Future, I really do love that movie. That movie is a lot of fun, and like I said, no one out there can emulate the Robert Zemeckis feel. And I can't believe I forgot to mention Who Framed Roger Rabbit in his filmography. I should have gone immediately to that, like, oh, what's that Bruce Willis movie? No, I should have gone.
And Grease, you can't remake that either.
Yeah, that's one. I'm going to go with one of my favorite all-time films. I'm going to go with Ghostbusters. I don't think anybody can remake that movie.
Yeah, that would be really stupid if they did that.
I hear they want to reboot the franchise with a new cast. Like they want to tie in the old cast, but they want to bring in a new cast for this third one. And
for what? What's that? Die Hard.
What?
What movie is that?
Ghostbusters.
Yeah, well, that's not going to happen. The game, I think, summed up the franchise. I think after the game, I believe that was the unofficial third movie, and the problem with this is Bill Murray keeps, I won't say cop blocking, he kept cop teasing Dan Aykroyd.
Crazy.
He's legit, am I going to be in the movie? Am I not going to be in the movie? Am I going to be in the movie? Hey, I'll turn up to a movie award show with a Ghostbusters pack. Look, guys, I'm a Ghostbuster. Yeah, I don't want to be part of that project.
Well, if they're going to do 3, it better have them all in there, otherwise it's not going to be worth it.
Well, it's funny you mention how the game felt like the third movie. That's what it was written as. I mean, Dan Aykroyd outright said when he wrote the script for the Ghostbusters game, it was written as an unofficial third movie. It was going to tie up the franchise.
Yeah, and it worked so well because it did tie up the franchise. And by the way, for anybody who wants to actually watch my playthroughs, you can check them out on youtube.com/TheNerdGenius and also dailymotion.com/NerdGenius. There you go. But it worked.
But what happened was the game made so much money that Hollywood was like, all right, this franchise is still hot. Maybe we can crank out an unofficial third one.
Which is hard to believe because the game, in my opinion, wasn't that hot. But I guess it was.
In terms of games based on movies, I think it's probably one of the best. I'd probably put it in the top 5. I think it was a very clean adaptation of the source material.
Are you talking about the original NES versions, or are you talking about the PlayStation and Wii versions?
I'm thinking about the 2009 version.
The one that was on the 360 and the PS3.
But that didn't make it very far. I mean, I was getting that for like pennies on the dollar because it didn't sell well or something. But who knows? Maybe
it did sell well. It sold well. It got switched from Sony and it went to Atari. And
Activision.
Sony, to Activision, sorry. And it did sell well. The game sold, I believe it was something like in round about, I believe it was over 1 million units. So it sold, but the thing about it was, probably by the time you got it, it was considered, it was old, basically. That's when I got my hands on it. I didn't even know the game existed until I basically played a version of it on my Wii U.
Yeah.
I was like, oh.
That's the thing about movie-based games. They don't hold their value well because they're licensed. Yeah. Licensed games always go down. Good or bad, the price will always go down because they're tied to a franchise.
Right.
So they'll always lose their value. But in terms of the Bill Murray thing, I don't know. I mean,
I love Bill Murray. Don't get me wrong, right? I love him to pieces, but at the same time, he's cop blocking. He's just doing it on purpose. He's teasing them. And he knows that he's probably never going to make another movie. And they've even said they're prepared to do it without him. I just don't think it's going to work without him. They need everyone there.
I've heard that he wanted to be a part of it, but they wanted to give him the least amount of lines possible. So I remember an interview that Sigourney Weaver did a couple of years back where they said that he's going to be in it, but he's going to be in it as a ghost. That he's actually going to be a ghost in the movie, which I don't know what to think about that. I mean, it'd be nice to have Bill Murray in there, but if he's not playing, the main character, one of the main characters, I don't know if I want to see him in there at all. I'd rather just see him without him.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, he has to be Peter Venkman because his character shined the brightest out of a lot of them, and every character had an element that made it work.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I don't think that Hollywood would take that much care with the script. I think they'd be like, let's just get Tom Phillips, who wrote The Hangover. Let's bring him in and write it. You know. Although I have heard that that Harold Ramis and Dan Aykroyd had outright said, we're writing it or we're not doing it.
And I agree, because it's their baby. Dan Aykroyd and Harold Ramis have made loads of money off of the franchise. You know, from the cartoons to the movies to everything, and they know how to market it. They know what to do with it. The fact that anybody else was going to try and remake it is ridiculous.
Now, guys, I hate to jump in on this, but when you guys say remakes, I have a completely different outlook on remakes. I feel like if there's any type of sequel to the original, I feel like in some kind of way that's a remake. When I see, Die Hard being run into the ground, when I see multiple movies of something like Home Alone, when I see that crap, to me every sequel is a remake. Yeah, it may have a different storyline, may have different something, but it's supposed to be the same kind of thing. It's supposed to be the same premise. It's supposed to be the same.
I kind of agree with you on that one, because the fact with the Home Alone movies especially, they were all the same movie.
Yeah, to me, and that's why I'm saying, to me, it's just anytime, I see a bunch of sequels to something. To me, that's a remake. That's running the damn thing smooth into the ground, and that's why I It's a Wonderful Life is my only movie that I can think of remotely that would be, it was one of a kind. It was done one time. There was no 5 years later, where's Jimmy Stewart and Donna Reed? There was none of that crap. There was no. Hey, Home Alone 2, the next year it happens the same damn way, only they go to New York this time. I mean, it's just to me, it's just it's all a remake. Anytime there's a sequel.
We should do a video one day, a show one day where we talk about sequels, because I think some sequels are better than originals, and then some originals are better than sequels, of course.
Maybe we can do that for next week's episode. We'll talk about sequels. That could be a topic.
I think sequels are more interesting than remakes, and I'll say why. It's just like video games. When you do a sequel, they kind of try to change it up a little bit, experiment, and then if you have a part 3, they try to go back to like almost the way it was. So I'm hoping that we can really get in depth with the sequels, because sequels are always, a continuation, but at the same time, they change it up a little bit. So it could be really interesting. It could be a really in-depth conversation that we could have, a lot more than remakes, in my opinion.
The only kind of sequels I can get into are video games. Like you look at Grand Theft Auto. I mean, obviously, they're in a different city every time. There's some. I mean, yeah, we're going back to the same 3 cities. I'm waiting for another Grand Theft Auto where they go back to Vice City, but there's something different happening all the time. The landscape may be the same, but when you're talking about video games, you want to know what the map is. Hey, I've been here before. I like this map. I like this area. Here's my house. Here's my property. I mean, it's a whole different kind of deal. But when you're talking about movies, I don't know. To me, sequels are just kind of, do it once, get it over with, and let that be that.
Everybody's got their own opinion on that. I mean, I'm also more retro gamer. I mean, I wouldn't be talking about sequels as far as Grand Theft Auto goes. I'd be talking about Castlevanias 1, 2, and 3. Yeah. Games that never had sequels even we could talk about. Like games that should have had sequels. Like Rygar for the NES should have had a sequel. I don't know why they never did it. They should have did it.
Well, Rygar's the bomb.
Yeah. In terms of sequels, if we're going to do next week's episode, I'm not going to go too in-depth on that. But to me, there are only 3 sequels that I can think of that did a service to their franchises, and that is Evil Dead 2, Aliens, and Terminator 2. And that's just my opinion, but we'll go into that next week. We're going to wrap things up then, and we're going to just rattle off some remakes that are worth mentioning in terms of how bad they are. And to me, I've got 2. I've got 2 that I want to talk about. To me, there are 2 remakes that just angered me. The first one is the Planet of the Apes remake from 2001. I hated that remake. To me, it was so unnecessary. It brought nothing new to the franchise. And you know what the funny thing is? You guys know who directed that movie, right?
Tim Burton.
Tim Burton directed that. I would have never known that was a Tim Burton remake. That feels nothing like a Tim Burton property.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
And again, it wasn't the same. Story, and this is the problem with the Planet of the Apes franchise. The story's been told already.
Yeah, you're not going to get any more revolutionary than Charlton Heston discovering the Statue of Liberty. You're not going to beat that, Even though the other sequels, even in their own rights, were okay to an extent, you're not going to beat that initial moment where Charlton Heston walks on the beach and stumbles upon the Statue of Liberty. You're not going to. And they tried in the new one where Mark Wahlberg lands in front of the Lincoln Memorial, and it's a monkey, and everybody comes out, and they're all half human, half ape creatures, which confused me. I had no idea what that was about.
The problem is there was no build-up. He just kind of threw it out there. It was like throwing fucking paint to a wall and hoping it sticks.
Me, mostly, obviously, I don't even have to mention names. I could just tell you I hate most remakes. I think they're all a joke. But there are a few, like I said, that are good. But most of them, in my opinion, are just an absolute fucking joke.
Yeah, and the other one to me, and we mentioned this earlier, just because I love the movie to death, and it's the Thing remake. I was actually really upset by that movie because it had nothing going for it in terms of the franchise itself. It had no character development. It had terrible special effects work, and just it had nothing going. Honestly, if it wasn't for the fact that it was called The Thing, it'd probably be one of the most forgettable movies I've ever seen. Honestly,
Probably, yeah.
I would basically just be like, I guess I saw that. Literally 5 minutes after, I'd have just forgotten about that movie. But
To me, Poseidon was one of the worst remakes I've ever seen. I don't think that one should have been redone.
yeah, that seemed to be almost like we're trying to ride the coattails of Independence Day and Day After Tomorrow, a big special effects type movie, with all this destruction and stuff. I get the original one was a disaster film, but it had a lot more character than most modern disaster movies.
Yeah.
Zach, any remakes off the top of your head that just kind of stood out to you and just were really bad?
Well, going on what someone else had said about counting kind of sequels as an idea of a remake, Mortal Kombat Annihilation was horrible. It was a really terrible movie. And the first one was really, really, just really good. I used to really like it. But one thing I wanted to say was, even though the second movie was really bad, a couple of years ago on YouTube, somebody made Mortal Kombat Legacy, which was a whole different spin and a whole different view on the idea of Mortal Kombat, and that ruled. There's 2 seasons of it out now. It's dark, it's gritty, it tells a whole different story, and it's awesome. So, I mean, they brought that back in a way that I think is awesome, and it kept me watching, every episode, and I thought they did a great job, and whoever did that.
I wanted to follow that, but when I saw that they were going to more of a mystical route with the Sub-Zero characters and whatnot, with the Outworld Outworld storyline, I kind of tuned out. I liked that they were going more of a realistic route with characters like Reptile and Sub-Zero and things like that.
I loved how Raiden. I thought he had the coolest story. How he was in the mental institution and he got zapped by those,
he was given electroshock therapy.
Yeah, and then he kind of got everything back. It was awesome. I love that episode. It's my favorite one.
I've heard a lot of good things about it. I might have to check that out.
Absolutely.
Burhan, off the top of your head, what's a remake that stood out to you the most in terms of how much it didn't get it?
What do you mean, was bad or?
Yes, bad.
I'm gonna get going, guys. I'm gonna go eat something and.
Yeah, we're just about to wrap it up. We're just about to wrap up anyway.
I would say The Thing.
The Thing?
I think it was way off. Yep, it was way off.
I completely agree. I guess Rudy's got to go. So, folks, we're going to wrap things up. We're going to get some plugs out there so you can check out some of these guys' other works. Burhan, we're going to start with you. What do you want to plug?
Okay, I've got loads of stuff. Check out the East London story Slap or Die on dailymotion.com. It's a movie that was produced by me and starring me, of course, because I'm a vain cunt. So you can check that out. That was originally released in 2007. It officially got released in 2013 because I managed to get the rights of it from the original company. And it's a labour of love. Very cheesy, very funny, very B-movie bait. I also have episode 3 of This Job for Hire coming out. Yes, I keep saying it's going to be coming out at some point. It is going to be coming out, hopefully, by next week, because I've been extremely busy. I've got a job now. I work 4 jobs, including my company, so it's
Wow.
very hard to get things done.
Send me the links, too, so I have it.
I will do, totally. I also have a YouTube channel, youtube.com/thenerdgenius, dailymotion.com/nerdgenius, and also check out www.nerdgenius.com, www.enigmaentertainment.com, because we've got loads of stuff going on, guys. I'm a very busy guy who does loads of bits and pieces. I am currently in talks with Konami about something I can't talk about, and I also have an interview coming up with Namco Bandai on Tuesday the 11th. And also, I got gameplay this Saturday, 8 p.m. EST. Make sure that you're there. We have a very special guest. We're talking Leisure Suit Larry, the man, the myth, the legend, the king of fucking comedy, and the man who basically made me see the funny side of adult gaming, and that is Al Lowe. Make sure you're there, guys, and make sure that you're always tuning into I Got Gameplay, 8 p.m. every Saturday. And we have a lovely cast of characters, including Zach Latour, Miguel Leon, and we still are looking for a few more hosts to come on for our Al Lowe show. So make sure that you're there. And as always, guys,
Remember,
Gameplay, have you.
You can just type in my first and last name and check me out and see what I'm all about.
Remember, guys, gameplay.
Yes.
Play.
Not gaming.
Yeah.
Someone, like someone who's actually been on the show for fucking God knows how long.
Yeah,
now.
you'd think I'd have gotten it eventually, but you know, Clint, you've got your own show that you host. Do you want to plug that?
I do, yeah. After a brief little stint in the hospital and thinking I was 2 inches away from death, I'll be back on XFI Live tomorrow at high noon Central Standard Time on blogtalkradio.com on the Retro Unlim Network. And,
we're happy to have Clint back because, trust me, we were worried.
Well, yeah, I didn't think I was going to make it out, guys. I didn't know what was happening, and I just thought I was about to be dead. But yeah, we've got a live MMA event coming up on February 15th. It is a week and some change from right now. It's going to happen, and we're expecting quite a few people to come out to this thing, and we're already selling out of tickets, and we've got about 20 fights on the fight card lined out. So I may have another fighter on tomorrow, maybe not. If not, then I will. Probably next week. I'll have a couple shows next week, and then we've got weigh-ins next Friday night, and then we've got the event on Saturday. So
definitely check his show out, guys. Zach, you got anything you want to plug?
Yeah, I'm part of a channel called Getting Your Nerd On. You can find us at youtube.com/Getting Your Nerd On, all one word, or you can search us on Facebook, Getting Your Nerd On. And you can find us streaming on Twitch, twitch.tv/Getting Your Nerd On. So yeah, check us out.
All right, and you can find us here on the Retro Unlimited channel, blogtalkradio.com, every Thursday night, 8 o'clock, for the Untitled Movie Show. For myself, for Michael Burhan, for Clint Davis, for Rudy Ferretti, and for Zach Latour, this has been the Untitled Movie Show. Jay, take us out.
Celebrity voices are impersonated. No celebrities were harmed in filming of this episode.
Excuse me, sir. The show's over.
Get away, zit face.